The trap likely involves the price, potentially involving the finance department, which had helped sabotage them before. Finance is a hotbed of factionalism. While they couldn't do much last time, they are perfectly positioned to leak information or facilitate a sting. If they are setting a trap, they wouldn't risk fake accounting. That would implicate the finance chief. They are likely just acting as informants. Their goal is likely to tip off authorities. Yet, selling game meat to a procurement officer with a valid permit is legal. In this era, hunting wild boars or rabbits isn't a crime, so there's no clear legal leverage against me. I decided to play along to see how the trap would unfold without exposing myself. I whispered my plan to Zheng Yuegua. Trusting me implicitly, Zheng agreed without hesitation. 700 jin at 0.86 yuan, totaling 602 yuan. Here is the authorization slip, Zheng said. Logistics doesn't care about the price as long as it's not absurd. They leave the reconciliation to finance. After receiving the payment, I noted the lack of questioning, confirming Zheng's suspicions. Wei Guoqing claimed he cleared this with finance. He's likely planning to deny authorizing the price hike, framing you for embezzlement. I realized. Zheng finally understood. Wei Guoqing had lured him into a trap by promising to handle finance, knowing the procurement department would reject the unauthorized price. Zheng, an honest veteran who avoided factional politics, had failed to see the malice behind the instruction. This incident reinforced his decision to remain neutral and stick to his duties. Stick to the plan, Brother Zheng, I said, handing him 7 yuan before leaving. The 7 yuan covered the extra cent per gene, keeping the transaction within a defensible range should an audit occur. Huzi, let's go. As we left the steel mill, we were intercepted by several bicycles. It's the public security, Huzi warned. I stood up, realizing Wei Guoqing's target was me, not just Zheng. I realized the trap was set for me all along. Comrades, is there a problem? I asked. Someone reported you. We need you to cooperate with an investigation, the officer replied. I and Huzi complied. We were escorted back to the steel mill security department. We were taken to the security department, not the police station. What is this about? I asked. Don't worry, you're just assisting the investigation, the officer reassured me. I was separated and questioned specifically about my supply of game meat. I sold it to the procurement officer with a valid permit. It's off-plan, not collective property, I defended. We aren't accusing you of theft. The meat is indeed wild, the officer confirmed. The focus shifted to the price. Game meat varies in quality. A flat rate is a standard compromise for convenience, I explained. 0.85 yuan is fair market value, and some of my stock is worth even more. The procurement department approved this price range, so what's the issue? Why the 1 cent increase? Are you taking kickbacks? The officer pressed. The interrogation was clearly aimed at framing Zheng. The records show 0.86 yuan, which exceeds the authorized limit. Who approved this? The tactic was crude but potentially lethal. Zheng Yuegua told me Wei Guoqing authorized it in private, I stated. I detailed Wei Dong's harassment, framing the price hike as compensation for the trouble caused. I insisted Zheng had relayed the order, prompting the officers to investigate Wei Guoqing and Zheng. Zheng, why did you raise the price without authorization? Are you taking kickbacks? Zheng remained calm, prepared for this. I didn't. Our deputy section chief, Wei Guoqing, authorized it. Where is the written approval? You know the procedure. Wei said he cleared it with finance and told me to proceed. I trusted my superior. In this era, following a superior's verbal order was common, even if technically irregular. To defy a leader over a minor procedural technicality would be seen as insubordinate. Wei Guoqing denies this. You're lying, the officer shouted. The officer pressured Zheng to confess, growing increasingly aggressive. After 2 hours of questioning, Zheng stood firm. Wei Guoqing had authorized the price. Just as the officers considered using force, the door opened. Captain, what happened? Release them. Release him? The public security officers asked, frowning. Why? Did someone pressure you? In this society, favors are common, but the officers insisted they were acting strictly by the law. No pressure. The factory director handed us an envelope containing 7 yuan, the exact surplus amount. He reported the surplus to the director immediately after meeting me. There are witnesses. He couldn't have faked it. The officers turned to Zheng Yuegua, demanding, Why didn't you mention this earlier? Zheng Yuegwa shrugged. I told you I didn't take kickbacks. You didn't believe me. Is that my fault? Realizing they'd been played, the officers asked, Are you their captain? I want to report these officers for bias. They tried to force a confession. I suspect our deputy section chief, Wei Guiqing, is behind this. This is a setup, an abuse of power, and an attempt to sow discord. The scene turned chaotic. The captain noticed some officers looking away guiltily. Calm down. We'll investigate. Your case is clear. You didn't take kickbacks. If your leader set you up, that's a different matter. Zheng Yuegwa detailed the previous frame-ups and failed recruitment attempts by Wei Guiqing. So, you suspected a trap and proactively handed the surplus to the director? Yes. Check who reported me to public security and see if they're linked to Wei Guiqing. The captain knew the reporter was from the finance department. While unusual to bypass the security department, it wasn't technically wrong. Given the history of finance harassing me, it was suspicious. It seemed likely Wei Guiqing and finance conspired to frame Zheng Yuegwa. Interrogation over. We will verify your claims. I and Huzi were released, but stayed to see the outcome. The officers and Wei Guiqing were interrogated separately, with the security department assisting. I and Huzi met with Su Sheng, Old Woman Wu, Huang Shan, and Huang Hai to discuss the situation. I vividly recounted the achievements of the deputy section chief. Rumors spread quickly in this environment. It wasn't just gossip, it was a logical deduction. By noon, the story had spread throughout the workshop. It would be common knowledge by day's end. I wasn't just being petty, I was protecting myself from being implicated. I wouldn't let an attack go unanswered. After the interrogation, Zheng Yuegwa treated me, Huzi, and the others to a meal. He felt guilty for the trouble they'd endured. He invited everyone present to avoid excluding anyone. After the meal, they returned to work. That evening, Su Xing visited my home to report the results. What was the verdict? A finance clerk took the fall, claiming he reported it out of personal resentment. He blamed a previous reprimand for his actions. Wei Guiqing tried to deny discussing the price hike, but it didn't hold up. The timing was too perfect for it to be a coincidence. It was clearly a coordinated trap. Wei Guiqing eventually remembered discussing the price hike, but the coordination between him and the clerk was too obvious. So what was the final decision? Internal discipline to avoid a public scandal. Wei Guiqing was demoted to a regular agent for negligence. His nephew, Wei Dong, was transferred to the workshop for abusing his uncle's influence. They spared Wei Guiqing from firing to save face for his superiors. But with the rumors spreading, the labor union couldn't ignore it. The collusion was obvious to everyone. The demotion was a reasonable compromise. What about the officers? Su Xing shook his head. They were likely handled internally. It's a shame he kept his job. The nephew had entered the factory legitimately, but Wei Guiqing had abused his power to place him in procurement. He might rise again, but for now, he was demoted. The next morning, Huzi arrived at my home. Brother, you going to the mountains? Huzi asked, waking me. Why so energetic this early? Huzi followed me into the mountains to hunt instead of farming. Initially, his parents didn't mind, as it provided extra food, and he wasn't going hungry. Unexpectedly, Huzi struck it rich quickly. He even afforded a bicycle for his upcoming wedding, a feat entirely credited to his partnership with me. Seeing Huzi's lack of interest in farming and his talent for hunting and handling weapons, his father stopped forcing him to work the fields. Since stopping the farm work, Huzi had become lazier, often sleeping in. Seeing him early in the morning was rare. I'm getting married early next month and I'm excited, Huzi grinned. My dad said if we catch game today, could you help me shop for wedding supplies in town? Using the donkey cart to deliver game and buy supplies simultaneously was efficient, allowing them to finish preparations without rushing. So that's why you're up so early? Afraid I'd be too busy to help. I teased. I'm calling Brother Daong to join us today, I added. Huzi was surprised. Su Daong, my cousin, was a sturdy, tall man who inherited the Su family's build. I needed Daong's strength to help carry the catch, as Huzi was lean and still young, lacking the raw power of the older, larger Daong. Huzi was curious about the sudden inclusion, though he didn't object. Hunting was dangerous. Huzi recalled a past incident with a wild boar stampede where his tree-climbing skills, learned from me, saved his life. A hunter who couldn't climb trees was essentially dead if they encountered an unstoppable beast. Even I couldn't handle hundreds of wild boars without heavy weaponry like a Gatling gun. Huzi never mentioned the danger to his family, fearing they would forbid him from hunting. It's simple. You know about the job quota issue, right? I asked. Huzi knew well. I had orchestrated a scheme to transfer his father's job quota to his third uncle. Su's father later claimed he retired voluntarily to save face. The village was abuzz with gossip about the father-son drama, which seemed absurdly comical to everyone. Huzi would have joined in the gossip if not for his close friendship with me. The villagers' teasing was mostly harmless entertainment in a place with little else to do. In this era, such crude humor and teasing were common, often serving as a social outlet. I've heard the rumors, Huzi said, but what does that have to do with Daeong? My stubborn third uncle insists on paying my father 500 yuan for the quota, I explained. I worked hard to drain my father's savings, and I don't want my uncle burdened. I couldn't just give the money back, as his uncle would refuse it. Huzi realized I wanted to help his cousin earn the money quickly through hunting, making the income seem like a fair share of the catch rather than charity. This way, Daeong wouldn't feel awkward about the arrangement. As long as the split was reasonable, Daeong would likely accept it. Great idea, but we only have 2 guns. Will Daeong use a bow? Huzi asked. He can't learn archery that fast. He'll use my gun. I had a Mauser nagant from the black market in my space, but I couldn't explain its sudden appearance. I could claim I found it after a black market brawl, but it was still risky to reveal. Instead, I decided to use my own bow. My archery was lethal, with enough penetration to pierce trees, a feat I attributed to my system. My silent bow was actually more cost-effective and efficient than a rifle. I washed up, grabbed my gear, and headed to my third uncle's house with Huzi. With the parents away, only Daeong and his younger sister, Su Xiaotong, were home. It wasn't peak harvest season yet, so they were only doing light maintenance work on the fields. What are you two doing here with your gear? Daeong asked. Upon hearing the invitation to hunt, Daeong was eager. Who wouldn't want to carry a rifle into the mountains? His mother was usually strict about him hunting, but his father had allowed it once before. Come with us, brother, I urged. Maybe you'll catch a rabbit for us to eat, his sister added. The Su family cousins followed a strict birth order, regardless of which branch they belonged to. Many were close in age, leading to complex social dynamics within the village. These age gaps often dictated who bullied whom or who became friends. I don't have a gun, Daeong hesitated. Take mine, I said. I'll use the bow. Daeong accepted the offer, impressed by my confidence in my archery. Just 10 days, I promised. We'll stop before the harvest. Most young men in the village had handled a gun during organized hunts. Guns weren't strictly prohibited, and hunting was a common pastime. Daeong told his sister to inform their mother he would be careful, and the 3 left for the mountains. Why the sudden invitation, fourth brother? Daeong asked. I claimed I needed help carrying the heavy haul from our previous trips. I clarified the rules. Whoever caught the game kept the profit. I wouldn't just hand out money. I provided the opportunity, but Daeong had to earn his share. Otherwise, I might as well just drop the cash at their doorstep. The mountains were full of game. With more people, they could maximize their harvest. I wouldn't waste my own share of the hunt on others. I only helped Huzi because, in my previous life, Huzi remained loyal and respectful to me when everyone else turned away. Huzi found something. Let's chase it. Huzi bolted immediately. Su Daeong checked his rifle and followed, with me close behind, my quiver holding 30 arrows. Huzi stopped, crouching and growling silently, tail wagging. I caught up and was stunned by what I saw. Huzi arrived second, having a head start, while Su Daeong struggled with the unfamiliar mountain terrain. Brother you, what is it? Why stop? Su Daeong arrived, and both men stared in disbelief at what Huzi had cornered. It wasn't a beast, but a domestic yellow ox, an impossible sight in the deep wilderness. Cattle were collective property. No one would buy one just for meat. Brother you, are we still in the village? Am I hallucinating? I slapped Huzi's head. It must have escaped from a nearby brigade. They should have sent out a search party by now. Since cattle were vital collective assets, the handlers responsible for this loss were likely in despair. Cattle were strictly managed. Even borrowing one for village business required rigorous justification. I could borrow donkeys only because I was wealthy enough to compensate for any accidents. What now? Do we hunt it? Are you crazy? It's a cow, not a sheep. You'll end up in jail if you touch it. I observed the young bull. It was nearly full-grown. It was an uncastrated bull, likely driven by spring hormones to break free. Give me the rope. Be careful, it's aggressive. It must have injured its handler to escape. Otherwise, it wouldn't be roaming here. Domesticated cattle aren't afraid of humans and might even attack if approached. I crept forward using cover, and the bull didn't flee. As the bull looked up, I threw my lasso. Catching a domestic cow is easy if you can get close enough to secure it. Whoa, such strength. The bull lunged, nearly dragging me, and I only held on thanks to my superhuman strength. Su Daong and Huzi rushed to help, but the bull charged them. Get back. I dodged and grabbed the rope near the bull's neck, struggling to maintain control without using my full power. The bull's nose ring was missing, making it impossible to control by force alone. Huzi, thread a rope through its nose to act as a ring. I held the bull in a stalemate, both man and beast gasping for air. Huzi carefully approached and used a small stick to thread the rope through the bull's nostrils. The original ring likely fell out after the tether broke and the bull licked the irritation. It's done, brother you. Let go. I released my grip. The bull immediately calmed down as the rope pulled painfully on its nose. This bull is stronger than a donkey. No wonder they use them for heavy labor. Indeed, they're heroes. They even pulled train tracks apart during the war. Cattle were precious, vital production tools that the commune prioritized above all else. I tied the bull to a tree and sat down, exhausted. Even with my superior physique, restraining a panicked bull was grueling. The men smoked in silence. Heizi returned with a live rabbit, having hunted while they dealt with the bull. You sneaky dog. You went hunting without a word? Huzi took the rabbit, killed it, and fed it to Heizi. I'll take the bull to the village party secretary. It's too much trouble to keep. Huzi, you and Daong keep hunting. I'll find you by the sound of your shots. Understood. I led the bull down the mountain while the others continued hunting. Villagers stared as I led the bull through the village. Little you, where did you get that? Sanshuiwan only had donkeys, so a bull was a rare sight. Found it in the mountains. I'm taking it to the village party secretary. Followed by curious onlookers, I arrived at the secretary's house. I pounded on the door. Who's that? Are you trying to wake the dead? Urgent. Rhythmic knocking was traditionally reserved for death announcements. It's you again. Why are you in such a hurry? Trying to break my door? It's a fence gate, Uncle Daqiang. It won't break. Watch it, or I'll beat you. I chuckled. I knew the secretary was all bark and no bite. The secretary finally noticed the bull. We found it in the mountains. It nearly gored us. I barely managed to secure it. I brought it straight to you. Tell me the truth. Did you really find it, or did you steal it? The secretary was skeptical, as cattle were too valuable to simply wander off. I rolled my eyes. If I had stolen it, I would have sold it to the black market for meat long ago. The black market would have bought anything, from cattle to guns, no questions asked. Su Daqiang warned that while a cow is a prize, it's a dangerous liability. If word leaks, prison is inevitable. Unlike minor black market goods, a missing cow involves the entire commune. Discovery means certain doom. I really found it in the mountains, I insisted. Why would I lie? And who would dare touch such a thing? Su Daqiang praised my civic duty. Good lad. I'm heading to the commune to report this. Coming. I declined, wanting to avoid the spotlight and let the village party secretary take full credit. I'm heading back to the mountains to find Huzi and brother Daong, I said, leaving Su Daqiang to his own devices. I returned to the woods while a jubilant Su Daqiang hurried toward the commune. Su Daqiang knew that whoever found the cow would be rewarded. By reporting it, he could claim the credit for educating me properly. He arrived at the commune, eager for praise, only to find a tense atmosphere. Any news? The leader asked. None. We've scoured their back mountain. We need to mobilize the masses. The current search is too slow. Mobilize the masses? In this terrain? If someone gets hurt, who takes the blame? The leader countered. Besides, you need to file a formal report. How do you explain a missing cow without losing face? The leader believed in solving problems internally. Reporting up the chain was a sign of incompetence. An aide interrupted. Leader, Su Daqiang from Sanshuiwan is here to see you. Su Daqiang? That troublemaker? I haven't even reprimanded him for the Manhwa incident yet. Let him in, the leader commanded. Meanwhile, I ignored the politics, using my bow to hunt based on scent. With a leap, I fired an arrow midair. Woof! A dog appeared. It was Heizi. I realized Heizi had tracked my scent from the mountains, having left Huzi behind. I patted the dog, amused by its keen nose, and led it to my latest kill. Heizi stared at the prey, clearly hungry. It seemed Huzi and Daong weren't feeding it enough. Ungrateful mutt, I muttered, giving it a playful smack. Despite the scolding, I butchered the prey and fed the dog. I stored the remaining meat in my space and continued hunting with Heizi. Heizi flushed out prey, and my arrows struck true before the dog even reached the target. Just chickens and rabbits, I sighed. Where are the big animals? I signaled Heizi to head in a new direction. Soon, I heard Huzi calling for the dog. I kicked Heizi's rear, forcing the reluctant dog to return to its masters. I waited as Heizi led Huzi and Su Daong to my position. Brother you, Heizi found you. This dog is practically a genius, Huzi exclaimed. Enough talk. What did you two catch? Su Daong held up a few small game animals. Heizi whined, confirming they hadn't been fed well. It was clear, following Huzi meant starving. No wonder the dog tracked me down. Let's keep going. You can help me, I said, seeking a larger group of animals. They pushed toward the edge of the deep mountains, risking danger for a better haul. Hiding under hats, they spotted a herd. Brother you, are those blue sheep? I nodded. We were on the border of the deep mountains. 10 of them. They're alert, so we need to get closer before firing. Adult blue sheep weighed 40 to 60 gene. I wanted the adults, but catching them alive was the real challenge. They crawled toward a large boulder and rose into position. Left and right targets for you two. I'll take the center. Aim for the big ones, I instructed. Huzi and Daong nodded. 3, 2, 1, fire. I vaulted into the air, drawing my bow in one fluid motion. Arrows whistled through the air, striking the largest ram. I landed on the boulder, firing rapidly while the others opened fire. At 30 to 40 meters, even Daong landed his shots, though slower than Huzi. The lambs. Chase them, I shouted. I wanted to capture them alive, which required precision to avoid lethal wounds. My archery, break limit, was masterful, but I lacked deep anatomical knowledge of sheep. I fired again. Climbing the slope, I managed to wound 3 lambs in the legs, immobilizing them. Huzi and Daong scrambled to follow me down the slope. Brother you, what are you doing? They asked, breathless. I ignored them, moving like a monkey across the rocks. I caught up to the injured lambs quickly. When they saw me grab the lambs, Huzi and Daong finally understood my plan. The trio regrouped, each holding a lamb. I held 2, struggling to keep them still despite their pain. I snapped my arrows and pulled bandages and disinfectant from my pack, secretly from my space. You carry medical supplies while hunting? Huzi asked, shocked. Better safe than sorry. It's for our own protection, I replied. I bandaged the wounds, doing my best to prevent infection. Huzi, swap with me. We need to treat these quickly before the heat causes infection. I meticulously treated all 3 lambs, ensuring they would survive. Brother you, blue sheep live deep in the mountains. Can we actually raise them at home? I was stumped. I knew nothing about animal husbandry. However, recalling that such animals were farmed in my past life and kept in zoos, I figured it was possible, albeit difficult with wild specimens. They only eat mountain greens, so they'll be picky. But we're a resilient people. The harder the task, the more we must push forward. I've decided to entrust this arduous task to Xiaotong. Uffed. Huzi nearly choked on his laughter. Laugh all you want. They're just not used to it yet. Once they adapt, they'll eat regular grass. I'm giving Xiaotong a chance to interact with animals. It's about holistic development. You wouldn't understand. Huzi and Su Daong chuckled, clearly skeptical. Check their sex. If we can breed them, we'll be rich. They immediately checked. Mine's a doe. Mine too. Yeah, mine's a buck. 1 buck and 2 does. Perfect. Any more bucks, and they'd just fight. The trio climbed back up the slope with the bleeding lambs, leaving the carcasses of the adult blue sheep behind. All right, stop crying. It's survival of the fittest. I'll take good care of you from now on, Huzi said, patting a lamb's head. Huzi then asked, Brother you, how are we getting these lambs back? Carrying the lambs was easy, but they also had 4 or 5 adult carcasses. They hadn't wiped out the whole herd. A few had escaped into the dense brush where I couldn't get a clear shot. Most of the herd had fled before I reached the summit. Only these 3 lambs remained in sight. You hold the lambs. I'll rig up some gear to carry the rest. I handed my lamb to Su Daong and darted into the woods, returning shortly with a bundle of branches. Brother, are you going to weave a basket? In this era, almost everyone in the village knew how to weave basic baskets for collective tasks. Even if one hadn't mastered it, the process was common knowledge, even if the results were often lopsided. I didn't need a professional-grade basket for grain. I just needed a frame sturdy enough to hold the lambs. As long as the mesh wasn't too wide, it would suffice. I only needed a rough, net-like structure. Within half an hour, I fashioned a back basket. I tied the lamb's legs and placed them inside, securing the pack to Huzi's back. I and Su Daong would carry the adult sheep. Ready. Keep it steady so you don't spook them. Let's go. I and Su Daong bundled the adult sheep and hoisted them onto our shoulders. With the does at 40 caddies and the buck at 60, the 200-pound load was easily split between them. Huzi carried the lambs and the small game. I claimed I'd left more game in the trees to retrieve later, keeping my space-hidden stash a secret. The others didn't question me. As they walked, Huzi asked, "Are you really giving the lambs to Xiaodong?" At 14, Su Xiaodong was more than capable of the task. Of course, she needs a break from her studies. This connects her to nature and helps the family budget. Once grown, the sheep would provide meat or offspring to sell to the steel mill or restaurants, far more profitable than hunting jackals. Su Daong looked hesitant, but I cut him off. She's my sister too. I'm teaching her self-reliance. By the time the Gao Cow returns, she'll have enough for tuition, and third uncle will have one less burden. Su Daong relented. My care for my cousin was as genuine as a brother's. Fine, you tell her. She's lazy. She might complain if she knows it was your idea. It was an excuse. Su Daong wanted Xiaodong to appreciate my kindness directly. Back at my home, the construction workers were stunned. Boss, you struck gold? Where did the lambs come from? Just luck. We'll slaughter one for lunch. Meat and bone soup for everyone. The boss is generous, the workers cheered. In these lean times, a meal with meat was a rare luxury for laborers. My occasional generosity kept the workers highly motivated. I turned to my companions. Process the big buck. We'll split it 3 ways, and I'm taking some to the village party secretary. I need to clear this with him. Raising blue sheep isn't like keeping a chicken. I don't want the village gossiping. Brother Daong, here's the plan. I explained my reasoning. While it was technically our catch, the collective climate made private ownership of livestock a sensitive issue. If the sheep bred, the neighbor's jealousy could turn ugly. Fair enough. You caught them, you decide. I took my knife and began to dissect the buck with my butchery skill, separating bone from meat with surgical, artistic precision. Take the rest. I'm taking a hind leg to the village party secretary. I headed out, drawing curious stares from villagers as I carried the meat. I knocked on the door, and the old party secretary, Su Daqiang, answered. You? What do you want? Old party secretary, why the cold shoulder? I'm here out of respect. We caught some blue sheep today, and I brought you the best leg. Do you want it or not? If not, I'm leaving. The old party secretary grabbed me, annoyed by my teasing. You never give without a motive. What do you want? Let's see if I can help. The old party secretary was a shrewd fox. Our kinship was distant, bordering on the edge of the 5 degrees of mourning. We weren't close enough for random gifts. I would have gone to my third uncle first if it were just charity. Su Daqiang saw through me clearly. It's nothing major. We caught 3 lambs, and I want Xiaodong to raise them. I need your approval to avoid any trouble with the village. You're the one in charge, after all. Cut the nonsense. Su Daqiang isn't a fool, I said. Speak plainly. You can't hide anything from you, Uncle Daqiang. I flattered him. That's why you're the one leading Sanshuiwan. After the opening pleasantry, I got straight to the point. My sister, Xiaodong, is young. If I just give her the lambs, the village might complain. Here's my plan. Let Xiaodong raise them. When she graduates high school and the Gao Cow returns, she'll leave. I'll hand the 3 ewes to the village then. The lambs born in the meantime go to the collective. The ewes stay with my third uncle's family. The village gets the offspring while she's at university. If she wants the ewes back later, the village can't object. The ownership of the original ewes remains with my third uncle. In a few years, those 2 ewes will have produced a whole flock. It's a guaranteed win for the village. Tell everyone I caught the lambs and gave them to Xiaotong to study breeding. When she leaves for university, she'll share her experience. The village gets the lambs, my uncle keeps the ewes. How's that? The village party secretary realized my intent. By framing it as a contribution to the village's future, I'd neutralize jealousy. It was a win-win. This plan gave the villagers hope and a reason to stop resenting us. With Xiaodong acting as the expert, no one could accuse my third uncle's family of hoarding resources. While the commoners might buy it, I knew the party secretary and the brigade leaders would see it as a tactical move. Regardless, they couldn't argue with the logic. I caught them, I'm raising them, and the village gets the offspring for years. It was a solid deal. Plus, wild blue sheep are hard to raise. Having Xiaotong document the process would save the village from potential losses later. A smart, studious girl like her was the perfect cover for this arrangement. You're a good brother, Su Dachong praised. You've secured your sister's tuition and handled the village gossip perfectly. He didn't hold back his praise. He knew most people wouldn't bother protecting their siblings from such scrutiny. Even if he knew I was calculating, he had to respect the effort I put into shielding my sister. I'll propose it at the meeting tonight. Also, the cow ewe, Huzi, and Daong turned in has been claimed by a neighboring village. The commune leaders are pleased and will award you with red flowers and a bonus tomorrow. Be ready to welcome them. Can we skip the red flowers? I asked. Don't be modest. Just do as the leaders say. I thought to myself, it's not modesty, it's fear of social embarrassment later. Still, I needed this recognition. Official approval was the best protection against petty harassment. It was a shield. Without it, anyone could target me. Go ahead and get those lambs to your uncle's place. I'll handle the rest. The party secretary was in high spirits. Turning in the cow had earned him praise, and he knew the risks of trying to sell it on the black market were too high. Risks and opportunities coexisted, but selling a cow was dangerous. The commune's search notice made it impossible to hide. If I'd sold the meat, someone would have tracked it back to Sanshuiwan. With thousands of people searching, the risk of exposure was too great to be greedy. Understood. I'm off. I returned home to find Huzi and Daong cleaning the blue sheep. We were going to make authentic sheep soup with the organs and bones. Everything's set, I told them. Let's take the lambs to your place. We each carried a lamb to Daong's house. Stay here, Daong. I'll have Su Jin bring your share of the meat. Build a pen and keep them tied up for a few months so they don't run off. I explained the plan to Xiaotong. These 3 are yours now. Can you handle it? Xiaotong was thrilled at the prospect of earning her own tuition. She saw the perfect path: raise the sheep, sell the offspring, and fund her university education. Thank you, brother, she said. She called me fourth brother to distinguish me from her own brothers. You'll be a little rich girl by the time you graduate, I teased, patting her head. She was a prodigy who had already self-studied beyond her teacher's capabilities. She'd be a high schooler after the harvest. Huzi, let's go. As we left, Daong began sawing wood for the pen. Back home, I divided the injured sheep into 3 portions, giving one to Huzi. Huang Sui put the organs in the kitchen and started boiling the bones for soup. She prepared the soup by blanching the organs and repeatedly rinsing them in the hot bone broth. With green onions and pepper, it was a proper, hearty meal. I didn't provide flour for pancakes. I didn't want to be too flashy. Being a hunter meant having extra meat, but providing a full feast would look suspicious. I had to strike a balance. Being too generous would make me look like a fool. The organs and bones were enough to feed the 20 workers. The meal was lively, and the hot soup was a hit despite the heat. The organs were tender and flavorful from the broth. This soup is incredible, the workers praised. Huang Sui smiled modestly, downplaying her effort. Huang Sui, born into a family of hunters, was an expert at preparing game dishes like lamb soup and braised offal, having learned from her mother since childhood. While Huang Sui's father, Old Man Huang, lacked my supernatural efficiency, his lifetime of hunting meant he had encountered and consumed almost every mountain creature, save for tigers and black bears. He never bagged a bear because his shotgun's iron sand couldn't penetrate their thick hides. Unless he landed a perfect point-blank headshot, they were too elusive to hunt. Regardless, Huang Sui had gained extensive knowledge on processing and cooking wild game from her father. Uncle Zheng informed me that the house's main beam would be raised tomorrow, with construction finishing shortly after. He mentioned this so I could prepare a celebratory feast, a tradition the workers eagerly anticipated. I agreed, telling the workers to rest and eat well while I headed to the old family courtyard. I brought half my portion of mutton to the old courtyard for my pregnant sister-in-law, as my eldest brother was often away at work. I told my mother to stew the meat for her, then ordered Su Jin to deliver the rest to Brother Dayong's home. After a nudge from me, a reluctant Lao Si delivered the meat to Brother Dayong's family as instructed. I then headed toward the mountains, merely circling the perimeter before returning. I returned carrying nearly 200 jin of game, wolves, pheasants, rabbits, and water deer, which I had actually retrieved from my space. Uncle Zheng was surprised by the sudden haul. I claimed I had tied up some live blue sheep I caught earlier and had just finished retrieving them. I kept a few pheasants, rabbits, and wolves for my family, sending the rest to my eldest brother's house. The small game was perfect for my sister-in-law's recovery, while the family could eat the wolf meat. I decided to keep the water deer for myself, as it was too potent for a pregnant woman. That afternoon, Huzi arrived with a donkey cart, and we loaded the dressed blue sheep and the remaining game. Since it was summer, I couldn't store the meat indefinitely. Once out of the space, it had to be sold or consumed. I decided to sell the excess wolf meat, as one carcass was enough for my family for days. I considered inviting Brother Dayong, as he was entitled to a share of the blue sheep. Huzi noted that Dayong was busy with his sheep pen and had told them to handle the sale themselves. Trusting my cousin, I proceeded, knowing our relationship remained solid. Armed with our guns for safety following the Lai Tu San incident, we set off for the county town. I decided to bypass the steel mill and head to the city to see Manager Lu, hoping the high-quality game would fetch a good price. Upon reaching the city, I left Huzi with the cart and entered the restaurant. I soon emerged with Manager Lu and several staff members to help weigh the haul. Manager Lu greeted me warmly, feigning hurt that I hadn't visited recently. I found the fat manager's forced intimacy nauseating. We exchanged pleasantries, with me claiming I hadn't had any good stock to bring until now. The fake camaraderie continued, much to my disgust. They settled on the price, 250 jin of blue sheep and 150 jin of water deer. Lu also agreed to buy the wolf meat at 5 mao per jin as a staff perk. Lu paid out of his own pocket to build goodwill. The total came to 450 yuan for the sheep and deer. With the wolf meat added, the final payout was 500 yuan. I questioned the unusually high price for the water deer. Lu explained it was for a high-ranking official's relative who needed it for medicinal recovery. I realized Lu was currying favor with someone powerful. I acknowledged the explanation. Lu urged me to bring more deer or similar game in the future. I agreed, but once outside, I spat in disgust, calling Lu a hypocrite. I explained to a confused Huzi that such game was often used for virility supplements. Huzi realized the implication. The official likely wanted the meat to boost his stamina. I found it pathetic that Lu was using such underhanded methods to climb the social ladder. The medicinal excuse was likely a thin veil for his sycophancy. I concluded that Lu was a man of low character who hid his greed behind a facade of morality. Regardless, I was happy to take the money. After shopping for Huzi's wedding supplies, we returned home. I gave Huzi 200 yuan. I instructed Huzi to give 100 to Brother Dayong, knowing Dayong would refuse if I offered it directly. Huzi agreed to handle the delivery. That evening, the village held a meeting where the party secretary praised me, Huzi, and Dayong for turning in a stray ox, promising official rewards the next day. The following day, as my house raised its main beam, the commune leaders arrived to present the awards. I had my father host the guests while I attended the village meeting. Though reluctant, I attended the ceremony to accept the honor. The entire village of Sanshuiwan gathered for the event. Almost my entire family was present, save for my father and Huang Sui. After speeches, the 3 men were awarded red flowers and a cash prize. We received 50 yuan total, a significant sum for the time, even compared to technical bonuses at large steel mills. The modest amount emphasized the spirit of selfless contribution over mere financial gain. For true national talents, the state provided comprehensive support, from housing to family needs, ensuring they could focus entirely on serving the people. People back then were truly devoted to the country. In the era of small currency, Money was hard to spend without ration coupons, making cash alone largely useless. Phew, finally, it's over. I, Huzi, and Su Daong removed our red flowers and handed them to the village party secretary. Seeing our palpable relief, the secretary felt like kicking us. As Su Daqiang put it, they were like dogs unable to sit at the banquet table. Despite the secretary wanting to praise them, the three refused to speak on stage, creating an awkward scene, though the commune leaders didn't mind. The leaders simply offered a few words of encouragement and dismissed them. Su Daqiang remarked that you couldn't get a sound out of them even with a stick. It wasn't shyness or nerves. I just wanted to stay low profile. Acting like a seasoned adult would only invite jealousy. All right, go back now. Work hard, serve the people, remember the party's teachings, and keep it up. The secretary sent them off. As they parted ways, the villagers whispered and pointed at them. Even without activating my sixth senses, I caught snide remarks about them being lucky or blind cats hitting a dead mouse. Jealousy made people ugly, especially my eldest uncle's family, who looked like they wanted to devour me. I ignored them and headed home. I drank with Uncle Zhang, helped my drunken father home, and returned to work. With the main beam installed, the construction sped up. Boss, we'll finish tomorrow. Are you satisfied with our progress and craftsmanship? I knew Uncle Zhang was fishing for the final payment. Don't worry, Uncle Zhang. If there are no major issues after completion tomorrow, I'll pay the balance in full. Though Uncle Zhang didn't know my exact wealth, he knew I wasn't short on cash. He wasn't worried about being stiffed. It was just a habit to ask. The next day, the trio went hunting again. It was just a force of habit, something I asked out of routine. The next day, I, Huzi, and Su Daong headed into the mountains to hunt once again. I asked, Brother Daong, how did you convince Third Aunt to let you come? Previously, Daong had snuck out, but today he had her permission. Yeah, I put the money you gave me on the table and asked why Huzi is fine while I'm supposedly in danger. I told her I'd stop during the autumn harvest and that I was just helping you to earn extra for Dad. She agreed, Daong said. Huzi gave him a thumbs up. I realized the key was Daong claiming he was helping me and easing his father's burden. Third Aunt was a simple woman who understood gratitude. I had helped her husband get a job and a grain ration, which the village envied. She couldn't refuse after benefiting from me, and Daong's logic about Huzi's safety sealed the deal. Daong's comparison to Huzi's track record also helped. 3 factors secured Daong's freedom. Let's discuss where to hunt. Animals are scattered this season. How about the outskirts of Shirley Slope? Both the deep mountains and Shirley Slope were dangerous, one for toxins, the other for predators. Yesterday's trip to the deep mountains yielded a blue sheep. The outskirts of Shirley Slope presented a different kind of threat. Su Daong was nervous but stayed quiet, knowing he was just a temporary hand. I don't mind, you decide. Daong resolved to stay on the perimeter. As the only son, he couldn't afford to risk his life. I patted his shoulder, reassuring him. I wouldn't let Daong face real danger. I'd just have him act as a lookout from a tree while Huzi and I hunted. They marched toward Shirley Slope, I shooting several animals along the way. By the time they arrived, they had already stashed a decent haul in the trees. Xiaoyu, we've got enough. Shirley Slope is too dangerous. As my cousin, Daong didn't want to see me risk my life out of greed. He knew that no matter how skilled one was, constant risk-taking eventually led to failure. I understood this well. My mental age was far beyond Daong's. The beasts in Shirley Slope were likely fighting for territory. That was exactly why I wanted to go. Injured predators would flee to the outskirts, allowing me to scavenge. The true apex predators were too busy choosing mates to wander the perimeter. Brother Daong, I have a plan. See that tree? Climb up and act as our lookout. They established signals for sightings, danger, and retreat. Daong, though rusty at climbing, managed to get up the tree. Tie yourself to the tree with a rope so you don't fall. Daong gave an okay sign. Good. It's thick and tall. 7 or 8 meters is plenty for a view. Huzi and I crossed the stream and hid on the outskirts. Should have brought a carcass to bait them. Now we have to wait. They chatted while keeping an eye on Daong, who had found a secure spot. Waiting is inefficient. If predators are injured, they might not come out unless there's food to lure them. Huzi, wait here. I'll go catch something small. Don't be impulsive. If things go wrong, run and let Daong cover you. Huzi agreed. I told Daong to fire a warning shot if necessary. I vanished into the woods, disappearing even from Dayong's sight. 20 minutes later, I returned with a rabbit, its leg pinned to the ground by an arrow. I signaled Dayong and headed toward Huzi. Back already? Yeah, let me set the bait, then we'll talk. I staked the rabbit down. The scent of rabbit blood was familiar to predators. Unlike human blood, which might trigger caution, predators wouldn't hesitate to hunt a rabbit. Get ready, we'll have a catch in half an hour. Sure enough, Dayong signaled, target approaching. I had already sensed them with my six senses, but let Dayong signal to ensure their cooperation. Dayong needed to feel useful to earn his share, and his lookout role was genuinely helpful. I and Huzi hid under straw hats, tracking a target by scent. I whispered a warning to Huzi. At 10 o'clock, there's an injured lynx. It's an adult, about 30 gene. It likely lost a mating fight. Look at its injured hind leg. I noted, spotting it from afar. Wait until it gets closer. I'll finish it. Huzi stayed perfectly still. The lynx was agile, but its injured leg severely hampered its speed. Whoosh! An arrow pierced the lynx's skull before it could react, pinning it dead to the ground instantly. Huzi moved to retrieve it, but I held him back. Wait, there's more, I whispered. I pointed, but Su Dayong, watching from a distance, couldn't see anything. I and Huzi waited patiently, guided by the faint scent of blood. The air carried the mixed scent of rabbit and lynx blood. 10 minutes later, the predator emerged, prompting Su Dayong to signal a warning. Huzi peered out to see a massive tiger, its head larger than all three of theirs combined. Is that a Siberian tiger? Hardly. It's just a tiger roaming our territory, I corrected. It was nearly 3 meters long and weighed 250 kilograms, capable of leaping up to 10 meters. Seeing the tiger's ferocious gaze, Huzi's legs trembled, and he retreated in fear. Su Dayong, perched in a tree, broke into a cold sweat, focused entirely on how to save the others. The tiger's maw reeked, and its face was bloodied with a jagged scar across its brow from a recent fight. It was clearly a defeated outcast, covered in claw wounds. How did it get here? Its habitat is thousands of miles away. While theoretically possible, the distance and climate made its presence highly unusual. Don't panic. It's an outsider, weak from being mauled. Leave it to me. Huzi handed his gun to me, too shaken to aim steadily himself. Keep the gun. I'll use my bow. My bow offered superior penetration, though it lacked the wide-area damage of a firearm. However, the bow's rapid-fire capability allowed me to stack damage quickly. On 3, we fire. Regardless of the hit, run for the trees immediately. I planned to draw the tiger away. Knowing my own speed gave me a chance to escape, unlike Huzi. I realized that killing such a massive beast would yield a huge reward. 3, 2, 1, fire. Both rose, and I loosed an arrow like a meteor. Bang! Whoosh! Bang! The tiger, hyper-alert, detected their movement from 30 meters away and shifted its path. The beast's sudden change in direction ruined their lead aiming strategy. Both missed their intended marks. Su Dayong, however, was a novice who didn't use lead aiming. He simply aimed at the tiger's body. He fired instinctively after hearing Huzi's shot. Luck favored him. The bullet struck the tiger's back, enraging the beast further. The tiger lunged directly toward Huzi. With its massive leap, it would reach Huzi in 3 seconds. Run! I screamed, positioned 10 meters from Huzi. Huzi snapped out of his shock and bolted. He trusted my speed to survive, knowing he was the one in danger. Bang! Su Dayong missed his second shot, confirming his first hit was pure luck. I fired 3 arrows in rapid succession. Only one struck the tiger's leg, the others missed. The tiger's erratic, high-speed movements made it nearly impossible to track. The beast was closing in, ready to maul Huzi. System, dump all my points into archery. I realized I had to rely on my bow to turn the tide. My stats updated. Physique 35, Strength 55, Speed 30, Endurance 38, with Archery Limit Break at level 2. I cleared my accumulated points to fuel the upgrade. My physical attributes surged, a significant breakthrough driven by the archery upgrade. Archery Limit Break level 2 granted me the ability to fire 3 arrows simultaneously and influence their trajectory. While the arrows couldn't change direction mid-air, I could pre-calculate complex paths. I felt a new, subtle connection to the arrows. It felt like an extension of my will, a manifestation of mental energy. Though intangible, the power was undeniably real. I loosed my arrow. It flew like a shooting star, piercing straight through the tiger's throat. The tiger launched its second leap, putting Huzi in immediate danger of broken ribs. I dropped my bow, kicked off the ground with explosive force, and launched myself like an arrow toward the beast. I knew that if the 500-pound tiger landed on Huzi, the impact would be lethal. Like a wild boar, I slammed into the tiger midair with an Iron Mountain lean before it could reach Huzi. The tiger was sent flying. My enhanced base stats, strength, and physique allowed me to fully utilize my superhuman strength ability, which scales based on my physical foundation. With 55 strength and 35 physique, my explosive burst sent the tiger soaring over 10 meters away. The tiger died before hitting the ground. I, having seemingly awakened a form of spiritual perception, could vaguely trace the trajectory of the arrow that had pierced the beast's skull. Are you okay? Huzi was paralyzed with fear, having collapsed when the tiger's shadow loomed over him. He couldn't stand, but I had arrived just in time to intercept the tiger, saving Huzi from certain death or permanent injury. I'm fine, just a sprained ankle. I was gasping for air. The adrenaline and the activation of superhuman strength had pushed my body to its absolute limit. Extreme strength requires a matching physique and speed. Without them, the body would shatter under the strain of lifting thousands of pounds. Superhuman strength boosts overall physical performance, as speed and explosive power are essential components of true force. Like a peregrine falcon or a master martial artist, I relied on explosive speed to generate power far beyond my own weight. This state was unsustainable, leaving me breathless and unable to maintain the exertion for long. Sit still, let me check. I examined Huzi's leg, confirming it was just a muscle strain and not a fracture. Su Daong descended from a tree and rushed over, clearly anxious about Huzi's condition. Huzi was touched by their concern, reassuring them that he was only slightly injured. Su Daong was relieved. He had been ready to risk a shot from the tree, but my incredible speed had resolved the crisis in seconds. Daong knew his marksmanship was risky. He might have hit Huzi, but it was a necessary gamble if I hadn't intervened. My miraculous Iron Mountain lean had saved the day. Daong chose not to lecture me, avoiding the adult-child dynamic that would only create distance and cause them to hide future risks from me. Despite being a cousin, Daong respected our peer relationship and avoided unnecessary condescension. Let's move. Daong, help Huzi. I'll handle the tiger. The scent of the tiger's blood would quickly attract other predators. My heart was racing, my hands trembling from the physical overload of my recent burst. In this weakened state, I couldn't protect the others if another predator appeared. Like a marksman with an injured hand, I needed several minutes for my heart rate to stabilize before I could regain my combat effectiveness. The blood from their previous kills and the tiger made the area dangerous. Even if the tiger's scent deterred some, larger predators like brown bears wouldn't be intimidated. Daong agreed, offering to carry Huzi, who initially tried to refuse. Huzi could stand, but walking was painful. Don't be stubborn, let's go, Daong insisted. Huzi climbed onto Daong's back, and they departed. I gathered the rabbits and the tiger, following them out. They reached the forest edge, where the scent of vegetation masked the blood. Exhausted, they sat down to rest against the trees. I lit a cigarette to calm my nerves. Brother, are we taking the tiger to the city? Of course. Huzi, bring a cloth to cover it when we get back. After resting, they retrieved the rest of their game and headed home. I carried the heavy tiger alone, my strength proving sufficient. Daong and Huzi carried the remaining haul. Near the mountain base, I sent Huzi ahead to fetch the donkey cart. Huzi returned quickly with the cart. I loaded the tiger, covering it with a tarp and piling the other game on top. Huzi, go home and rest your ankle. Daong will accompany me to the city. Huzi trusted me completely, even though the kill was a team effort involving Daong's warning and Huzi's own shot. Huzi accepted the instruction without complaint. He knew my intervention had saved his life. My archery had evolved. I could now manipulate the trajectory of my arrows, a feat far beyond simple rapid fire. This newfound mastery allowed me to land the lethal shot that saved Huzi. I and Daong headed to the city while Huzi returned home. They arrived at Siwei Chaotang, where Xiao Detzi greeted them, his attitude now respectful. He realized I was not associated with the previous scammers. There was no lingering grudge. To Xiao Detzi, I was just a hunter. The old master soon emerged. Ah, the magpies were singing this morning. I knew a guest was coming. The old master's speech was polished and diplomatic, a relic of a bygone era, contrasting sharply with the directness of the modern age. In that era of strict hierarchy, one had to address soldiers as chief and bosses as sir to avoid being seen as disrespectful. You are too kind, old master. I've brought something special for you to appraise. One must adapt their tone to the listener, using comrade or brother, depending on how the other party addresses you. Since the old master preferred young friend, I replied in kind. Oh, another harvest? Did you bring bear bile? I felt a surge of excitement. The old master's status and his elegant shop suggested he was a man of substance, not easily impressed by mere money. No bear bile, but I have a tiger. Interested? The old master's eyes lit up. Where? Lead the way. Outside, Su Daong leaned against a donkey cart piled with game, picking his teeth with a blade of grass. Seeing them, he quickly discarded the grass, hoping not to embarrass his brother. In this era, rural folk were often looked down upon by city dwellers, a social prejudice that would persist for decades until economic shifts bridged the gap. While not every city person was arrogant, rural people were often self-conscious, acting with extreme caution to avoid judgment. Su Daong, fearing he might shame me, remained nervous, especially given the old master's distinguished air. Sensing the tension, the old master stood straight and smiled warmly at Su Daong, gesturing for him to relax. Don't be nervous, young comrade. I don't bite. The old master's white hair and infectious, kindly smile immediately put Su Daong at ease. I noted the old master's calculated use of titles. Young friend for myself, but young comrade for the stranger, Su Daong. The old master was cautious with strangers, reserving intimacy for those he deemed like-minded. Brother Daong, relax. The old master is a good man. Move the game aside so he can see the tiger. Relieved to have a task, Su Daong cleared the cart and pulled back the tarp, revealing the tiger. It was a massive tiger, a valuable find. The old master, preferring to avoid complex medical jargon, simply called it invaluable. He wasn't the type to haggle. He was a healer who wished for a world without sickness. Hearing it was valuable, Su Daong beamed. Brother Daong, unload the rest. I'll carry the tiger in. I didn't ask for a price, trusting the old master's integrity. If the offer was poor, I could always take it back. This display of generosity was a calculated social move. High-status individuals often felt compelled to be fair when treated with such open trust. Such sentimentality was rare in later, profit-driven decades. I hoisted the massive tiger onto my shoulders. At 1.8 meters tall, I was almost completely obscured by the 3-meter beast. The staff inside were startled, briefly mistaking the sight for a living tiger entering the shop. What strength! That tiger must be over 500 pounds. He's carrying it alone. Xiao Detzi, the old master's young apprentice, hurried to open the door, his previous arrogance toward me replaced by genuine awe. Having studied medicine under the old master, Xiao Detzi was usually proud, but seeing my raw power made him shudder. He recalled our previous conflict and realized that if I had struck him, even his master might not have been able to save him. Though the incident was in the past, he remained wary. Su Daong stayed outside to guard the cart, while the old master led me inside. The shop was staffed by the old master's disciples, who revered him as the pillar of their practice. He only intervened for cases his disciples couldn't handle. Old master, who is that man? Such incredible strength. A curious onlooker asked, as moving a 500-pound tiger was physically impossible for an ordinary person. Just a young man from the mountains. He has a bit of strength. Despite his calm exterior, the old master was privately stunned. Shall I process the carcass, or will you? I asked. The old master replied, You do it, young friend. I'm too old for such labor. I began the dissection, with the old master offering guidance to ensure delicate parts like the tiger penis weren't damaged. Utilizing my advanced butchery skill, I expertly separated the hide, meat, and bones. Xiao Detzi brought bamboo trays to hold the tiger parts. I meticulously separated every component, as each had different medicinal applications. The weighing process was tedious, as prices varied significantly by part and medicinal use. Every piece, from teeth to bone, had a specific value, making the transaction complex but lucrative. Young friend, the total comes to 7,654 yuan. Please count it. I recalled selling a smaller tiger for only 5,000 in the county town. Prices were higher in the city, and even higher in Beijing, though obtaining the necessary travel permits made the capital inaccessible. Satisfied with the 7,000 plus total, I accepted the payment. I smiled and pocketed the money without counting. I trust you, old master. In reality, my heightened perception, a result of my archery skill, allowed me to sense the exact amount as the old master counted it. By not counting, I left a favorable impression. Haha, you are a man of character, young friend. Good, very good. The buyer's decision to pay such a large sum without counting it was the ultimate compliment to my integrity, proving that actions speak louder than words. This display of trust deeply touched the old man, who valued such recognition. In an era where meat costs 80 cents a gene, this level of trust was a profound validation of my character. Seeing the buyer's genuine lack of suspicion while handling the money made the old man truly happy. After a long, pleasant conversation, I prepared to leave, and the old man gifted me several medical texts. I had explained that my interest in traditional Chinese medicine was practical, to identify valuable herbs while hunting, creating extra income while potentially helping others. The old man, indifferent to mere profit, was moved by my desire to help my family and provide medical aid, prompting him to share his books. Even if I couldn't practice medicine, the theory would ensure I wouldn't overlook precious medicinal herbs in the wild. I accepted gratefully. The books from Li Yukai were far too few and lacked depth. Unlike Li Yotsai's self-aggrandizing claims, this old man clearly possessed a genuine, unbroken lineage of knowledge. Su Yu, you're out? Did you sell it? Sold. Let's go. Do you want to buy anything? Don't worry about the cost. You have a share of this money. Su Daong didn't refuse, knowing he needed the money and that I was looking out for him. They maintained a tacit understanding. My initial excuse for needing help was flimsy, and a man as experienced as third uncle would eventually see through it. Su Daong realized this, but chose not to expose the truth, preferring to keep their relationship comfortable rather than awkward. How much did you get? 7,000. Su Daong was stunned. 7,000 was an astronomical sum for an individual, far beyond the typical earnings of a household. I patted his shoulder, explaining, "Don't be scared. This is fast money that not everyone can earn. Everyone knows Shirley Slope is full of predators. Hunting large beasts isn't hard if you head straight for the slope, but who actually dares to go? Look at our village. Who else has the guts? Few dared to cross the stream, let alone enter the slope, fearing the hidden killers, venomous spiders, snakes, ants, and scorpions. With limited medical access, a single bite could be fatal or lead to amputation, making the risk too high for most. Even Su Daong had been terrified at first. Only someone as reckless as Huzi would follow me blindly. Su Daong's fear was the normal reaction of a rational person. We're risking our lives for this. Don't feel guilty. If anyone's jealous, tell them to grab a gun and go hunt themselves. My explanation eased Su Daong's anxiety. Having lived a previous life, I found such sums trivial compared to modern costs. To me, 7,000 was barely a drop in the bucket, though I understood why it terrified Su Daong in this era. Su Daong worried about being labeled a speculator. Even as self-employment became legal, sudden wealth often invited suspicion and reports of illegal income. He recalled cases where successful entrepreneurs were reported, only for high-level officials to eventually intervene. These conflicts arose as social rules shifted, struggling to reconcile individual profit with the protected status of the working class. In this climate, earning significantly more than a worker was often viewed as exploitation, regardless of the reality. Unlike state-owned enterprises, private earnings lacked a clear framework, making them targets for criticism. Su Daong's fear was well-founded. Even with changing laws, such wealth would inevitably draw jealous eyes. Don't overthink it. Let's go back, get Huzi, and split the money. I stopped at the supply and marketing cooperative to buy canned fruit, fish, and malt extract. Why buy so much? Su Daong asked, surprised by the haul. For my wife and my sister-in-law. She's pregnant, and my brother hasn't been paid yet. We'll sell the rest of the game at the steel mill before heading home. They still had several hundred gene of smaller game to sell. Take these snacks for Xiaodong. She's malnourished. She needs the nutrition. Su Daong tried to refuse, but I insisted, threatening to deliver them to his house anyway. Reluctantly, Su Daong accepted, and they sold the remaining game at the steel mill for over 200 yuan. They returned home, where Huang Sui and the construction workers were waiting. Su Daong went to return the donkey cart and fetch Huzi. Boss, you're back. We finished the work. Want to inspect the house? Uncle Zheng greeted him warmly, well aware that my trips were for selling game. He knew I sold to a steel mill procurement officer, a move that provided legitimacy and shielded me from village gossip. Having an official buyer helped mitigate the jealousy of the villagers. Don't rush, Uncle Zheng. I'll inspect it this evening, and we'll settle the final payment over dinner. Uncle Zheng knew I had the money, even if he didn't know the exact amount. I just want to ensure everything is perfect, but I'd be honored to join you for dinner. Uncle Zheng was smooth, masking his desire for payment as a commitment to quality. Business required a certain polish. In this society, one learned to be slick to survive. True character is tested by experience. Only those who have faced the darkness can truly appreciate the light. Experience is the only teacher. Without it, you might just be a naive fool. If you've truly seen the darkness, you'd know there is no light to speak of. Anyway, let's drink tonight. Seeing Su Daong and Huzi arrive, Uncle Zheng tactfully excused himself, claiming he needed to go keep watch, leaving the three of them alone. While not strictly required to treat the entire construction crew, it is customary to host the foreman and skilled workers for a drink upon completion. Most use this dinner to settle the final payment, fostering goodwill for future projects and celebrating the successful completion of the work. Huzi and Su Daong burst in, and they quickly shut the door behind them. Huang Sui remained outside to manage the workers, leaving only the three men in the room. I laid out the money, 7,650 yuan total, plus 200 from the smaller game. While the hunt was a group effort, I had done the heavy lifting. Without me, the others' non-lethal shots would have left them vulnerable. Huzi might have died before the beast bled out. In hunting, you don't demand compensation for bad luck, but the risk was real. Even so, if a tragedy had occurred, the beast's value would have rightfully gone to the victim's family. They discussed the split. Su Daong insisted that since I landed the killing blow and saved Huzi, I deserved the lion's share. I divided the 7,000 into 3 parts, keeping 4,600 for myself. Huzi and Su Daong each received 1,500. Su Daong felt uneasy, fearing the scale of the money, though selling medicinal game was common enough. Enough, stop fussing. Take your 1,500, figure out how to spend it, and get going. I dismissed them, calculating my own take at 4,850 yuan. Combined with my savings, I now held over 35,000 yuan. That evening, I settled the final payment with Uncle Zheng. The house was finished, red brick, cement walls, and a 2-meter perimeter wall, a unique sight in Sanshuiwan. Unlike the local adobe houses, my home featured cement-finished walls and red brick floors, with only a small plot left for vegetables. The next day, Huang Sui worried. Are we being too flashy? This is the only cement house in the village. Won't people be jealous? I reasoned that those who would be jealous already were. Living in poverty, just to stay low-key, was no way to live. While I didn't seek attention, I wouldn't hide my success. Even with the coming reforms, one had to be bold to survive. If someone wanted to target the wealthy, I wasn't the biggest fish. I could handle the local envy. My wealth was significant for a village, but negligible in the grand scheme of the city. Don't worry. We're at the edge of the village with no close neighbors. Let them envy us. Despite my words, the cement finish, a luxury usually reserved for city buildings or major water projects, drew stares. In the 70s, seeing a private home with cement-plastered walls was unheard of in a rural village. Everyone knew cement was durable and clean, unlike mud plaster that washed away in the rain. But it was prohibitively expensive. My polished, mirror-like cement floors were the talk of the village. Villagers flocked to see the house, and I, unable to turn them away, had to host them for tours. They offered hollow praise, but I knew most were green with envy. I sought out the old village chief to ask how to keep the neighbors from targeting my family. Despite their recent commendation for returning the commune's donkey, I remained anxious. Su Daqiang was a relative, so I spoke plainly. You're worried now? You should have thought about that before using cement for everything. If I'd just used red brick, it would have been manageable. Being a poor peasant family with a veteran father protected me from class-based purges, but envy was a different beast. Since my background was unimpeachable, the jealous villagers were likely looking for other ways to tear me down. I didn't think it through. But the cement is dry now. I can't tear it down. Su Daqiang scoffed. Tearing it down would only prove I had even more money to burn. I can't control their minds, but I have an idea. Tell me, old party secretary, don't keep me waiting. Su Daqiang was actually proud to have a self-made success in the village. It gave the community a potential resource for the future. If you want to stop the envy, you have to share the benefits. Let the village profit alongside you, and they'll see you as a benefactor instead of a target. Su Daqiang left it at that. He wouldn't beg for favors, but the hint was clear. Let everyone profit. I had a sudden epiphany. Uncle Daqiang, I have a plan. I whispered my idea. Su Daqiang was stunned by the boy's ingenuity. A plan to involve the village in a profitable venture where success depended on their own hard work. Don't hesitate, uncle. Let's go to the commune. This will work. Su Daqiang was whisked away to the commune to meet the leadership. You want to buy chicks for the village? That's a dangerous line of thinking, comrade. I quickly clarified my proposal. I explained that by fulfilling production tasks, the brigade often had surplus supplies, like chicks. Usually, the brigade sold these to procurement officers to fund communal tools or repairs. I wasn't suggesting illegal trade, but rather a way to utilize these off-plan supplies to benefit the villagers directly. I explained that since the chicks are personal gifts, they don't belong to the brigade. Selling them is like selling wild game to a procurement officer. The profit belongs to the individual. To sell them, villagers need a procurement officer. The commune can facilitate this, whether for public or private benefit. Selling to a state-owned enterprise helps the procurement officer meet off-plan supply quotas while benefiting the villagers. However, the commune leader had a lingering question. Young comrade, we can help you buy chicks, but what is your motive? Off-plan chicks are usually raised by villagers. They can be sold, distributed as welfare, or kept for eggs. The commune can act as a bridge, arranging for the supply and marketing cooperative to sell them or routing them through the vegetable market. Direct private purchase isn't allowed, but centralized handling makes it feasible. I wondered if I should admit I was just trying to avoid jealousy and trouble. In this era, poverty is a status, not a goal. People want a better life. Otherwise, the revolution would have been pointless. Poverty is merely a starting point. Even if a former landlord is poor, they are still subject to education and criticism. I want the people to live well and be fed, I replied. The leader coughed nervously. The leader worried that such rhetoric could be misinterpreted as dissatisfaction with the current state of affairs. Words can be twisted by malicious people to cause trouble. Despite the empty rhetoric, his intent was clear. I wanted to use my own money to help the village. The operation wasn't difficult. The commune could coordinate with neighboring communes to gather chicks, sell them to the cooperative, and have me buy them back for distribution. It was tedious but manageable, though details needed clarification. I wanted to sell the chickens. The village party secretary wanted to sell eggs. I wanted a quick fix. The secretary wanted long-term income for the village. The secretary argued that villagers near the mountains could feed chickens with wild greens. Selling eggs would provide families with income and allow children to attend school. I realized I had been selfish, forgetting the illiterate children of Sanshuiwan. I agreed, warning the secretary that production tasks must still be met. I promised to find a procurement officer for the eggs. I viewed this as a tax. I had previously distributed thousands of pounds of wild boar meat, suffering in silence to avoid conflict. To make money in this era without being targeted, I had to sacrifice some profit to keep the villagers united. It was a high tax, but necessary to avoid being reported by those who would use the greater good to attack me. The poor had nothing to lose by dragging me down, so I had to play the game. I suggested contacting Zheng Yuegua, a procurement officer at the steel mill I knew from my hunting days. I wanted the commune to handle the contact to avoid accusations of taking kickbacks. The procurement officer held all the power over pricing and acceptance. Even if I gifted the chicks, jealousy would persist. By tying the villagers' income to my connections, they would be less likely to cross me. If the commune-appointed officer was linked to me, the villagers would treat him with respect. Selling directly to factories was difficult because they wouldn't accept small, inconsistent quantities. Centralizing the eggs required the secretary's authority, as trust was scarce. Having a procurement officer visit the village was the most convenient solution. I declined to be the middleman, citing my concerns. Acting as the intermediary would invite suspicion of kickbacks. The leader agreed to have the commune handle the contact. He then asked about the wild boar breeding project. The leader approved, noting that as long as it wasn't exploitative, the party supported efforts to improve living standards. He warned them to stay within the rules. They then discussed the number of chicks. The secretary hesitated, knowing I was paying. They needed a moment to deliberate. They had rushed to the commune without a concrete plan. I decided on 500 yuan worth of chicks, fearing the leader would be annoyed if the order was too small. Off-plan supplies were limited. Off-plan items were the surplus beyond the state-mandated quotas. Gathering enough chicks from multiple communes was a logistical challenge. 5,000 chicks was a large number, but they could be gifted. I decided on 5,000, 2,500 for Sanshuiwan, and the rest for others. I allocated 1,000 to Huangjia Village and 1,500 for the commune to distribute. By donating personally, I ensured the benefits went to those I chose, securing the commune's cooperation. The commune could use these to help impoverished households, gaining political achievement for the leadership. I pay, and the commune benefits, a win-win. However, the commune leadership won't bother unless the project benefits more than just 1 or 2 villages. With the commune organizing the procurement through the supply and marketing cooperative, the process becomes legal and compliant, as the cooperative both sells and buys goods. The cooperative handles everything from game meat and pelts to collective catches like fish and shrimp. Selling directly to a purchasing agent is impossible for villagers, as they lack the connections. The most efficient method is selling to the town's supply and marketing cooperative, which then redistributes the goods to other regions. For smaller quantities, goods can be sold locally with a simple sign listing the item and price per gene. This allows for legal resale by individuals, whereas direct trading between village collectives is prohibited. Transporting the chicks will take 3 to 4 days, making an immediate turnaround impossible. I and the old party secretary returned to the village to wait quietly. We decided to keep the plan secret until the chicks arrived to avoid potential embarrassment or disappointment. Our caution was wise. If the commune failed to gather enough chicks, premature announcements would only damage our credibility. However, both men underestimated the impact my new, luxurious house had on the villagers. While some envied or resented me, others saw my success as a blueprint for their own wealth. My wealth came from hunting, a trade most villagers previously dismissed as too dangerous and low yield. Yet, seeing me bring back hundreds or thousands of gene of game made them wonder if the mountain's resources had suddenly exploded. A typical hunter considers 3 rabbits and 2 pheasants a successful day. Many return empty-handed. I, a novice with no mentor, had built a fortune in a short time, sparking intense jealousy. Young villagers began to believe that my success was merely a matter of timing, convincing themselves they could do the same. A hunting craze swept Sanshuiwan, with young men scrambling to borrow weapons. Many old, neglected firearms were pulled from storage, as families were unwilling to sell them despite their poor condition. This led to a rental market, where owners charged a small fee, 3 to 5 mao, to lend their weapons. Ammunition was either provided for a fee or sourced by the borrower, with payments settled upon return. For instance, if one rented a gun for 5 mao and used 3 bullets, they would pay for the bullets afterward. These were often relics, though many remained functional if well-maintained. Brother you. I was busy renovating my new house, planning the layout and sourcing windows and glass from the city. I needed to figure out how to utilize the extra space. Huzi arrived while I was working. Why are you here with your bow? I told you we aren't hunting for a few days. I wanted to rest until the chicks arrived, though I usually hated wasting time. Currently, it was the breeding season. Hunting was difficult, inefficient, and required deep mountain treks. I preferred to stay home and plan my house renovations. This isn't about hunting. It's a big deal, Huzi insisted. I sat down, and Huzi explained that the entire village was obsessed with my new house. I frowned, wondering if they were accusing me of corruption. While such accusations were common for those with poor class status, I usually avoided such trouble. It's not that, Huzi said. The young men are jealous and want to learn to hunt like you. I scoffed. Hunting wasn't that easy, or his father-in-law would be the richest man in the village. Why aren't you worried? If everyone goes hunting, what will we catch? I remained calm. Huzi, having hunted alongside me, didn't realize that my success wasn't just luck. Others wouldn't achieve the same results, so I wasn't concerned about competition. The mountain was public property. I couldn't stop them even if I wanted to. Is that why you came? You can't stop them from going. Then why bring your bow? Huzi realized I was right, but he was still uneasy. I brought it to store at your place. Everyone is raiding my grandfather's house for weapons. They've gone mad. I realized the situation was escalating faster than expected. Have they left yet? Are they going alone? They're too scared to go alone. They're forming a group and have recruited Tian Laochi to lead them. Tian Laochi was a selfish, aging bachelor and a skilled but disreputable hunter. With no family to care for, he lived entirely for his own whims. He had no legacy to protect and no sense of communal responsibility. Known for his past hooliganism and gambling, he was a social outcast who barely scraped by. He was a survivor of a stricter era, and his lack of savings was due to his vices. Tian Laochi, if they run into a tiger, he'll sacrifice them to save himself. There are no other experienced hunters left, Huzi replied. The others are too old or have retired to farming. My grandfather refused them, and the other hunters won't risk their lives leading a bunch of reckless kids for no pay. It was a recipe for disaster. Without official organization or compensation, no experienced hunter would take responsibility for these amateurs. They would likely just go off on their own, leaving the veterans to avoid the liability entirely. Unlike collective village hunts organized by the secretary, where risks are shared and the village provides minimal support, private hunting groups bear full responsibility for any casualties. Where are they? I asked, and Huzi replied. They seemed to be at the threshing floor by the village entrance. The threshing floor was a flat, wide, dirt-packed area used for drying wheat, leveled by heavy stone rollers. It was large enough to hold the entire village's harvest and easily accommodate hundreds, though only a few dozen young hunters had gathered. Since it was near my new house, I decided to check it out. Huzi dropped his bow and arrows at my home, and we headed out. We arrived to find about 30 men scattered across the threshing floor. For a village of only 500 or 600 people, 30 young men was a significant turnout. Families were large, often spanning 3 generations under one roof. With only 60 to 70 households total, the gathering was substantial. The men noticed me and Huzi approaching and began whispering, wondering if we intended to join the hunt. Some debated whether to invite them, citing their shared upbringing and village ties. Others scoffed, forget it. Did they think of us when they were getting rich? Jealousy fueled the dissenters, who urged the group to exclude them. Huzi and I couldn't hear the whispers, but I, with my heightened senses, heard every word clearly. Quiet, they're here. Let's see what they want. The group fell silent, their envy pushing them to treat me as an outsider. Suyu, Huzi, are you heading into the mountains too? Seeing they were unarmed, the men grew curious. Under an old locust tree sat Tian Laochi, a man in his 60s with a sharp, triangular face, silently smoking his dry tobacco. He ignored the newcomers, focused only on his pipe. No, I replied. I'm here to advise you to wait a few weeks. It's the breeding season, and the animals are aggressive. I understood their envy. Hunger drove them to desperation, and my success made me a target for their resentment. Rationality is a luxury of the well-fed. I knew that in times of crisis, even neutral parties are often blamed for the suffering of others. I understood their hostility. My new house was a painful contrast to their starving families. So you're here to stop us? Someone sneered. A man named Goshing interrupted. Su Xiang, why are you still talking? We're starving. Why listen to someone who doesn't know what it's like to be hungry? They viewed me as a rich man, detached from their reality. I knew I had to deliver this warning to protect myself from future blame. If I didn't warn them, I would inevitably be the scapegoat if tragedy struck. Even if the hunters were responsible for their own choices, a tragedy would require a target for their grief. By warning them, I ensured that if they ignored me and died, they couldn't blame me. Shut up, Goshen. Is it your place to interrupt when the Su clan is talking? Su Xiang snapped. Su Xiang was a distant clansman, but in this era, family ties were crucial for survival. He defended me because Goshen was an outsider to their clan. Clan unity was the bedrock of village life. Like the tight-knit families in dramas, clan loyalty provided protection and strength. Fine, you Su clan members are tough. I'll back off, Goshen muttered. Su Xiang was the eldest of their generation and commanded respect. In the village, seniority was determined by generation, not just age. At 35, Su Xiang was the eldest of his generation, having only recently married due to extreme poverty. He had raised his sister and used her dowry to afford his own marriage. He had been forced to mature early, working the fields while others played. He was the village's model of sensibility. Having been raised by a widow, he was tough and earned the respect of his peers through sheer grit. He was a natural leader whom no one dared to cross. Widows were often the most resilient and cunning, forced to navigate a world of men to protect their children. They had to be sharper than the men around them to survive. This survival instinct made Su Xiang a formidable and cautious man. Brother Xiang, I'm being sincere, I said. Huzi and I are resting because we barely survived a run-in with a tiger recently. I didn't mention killing the beast, only the danger. Su Xiang, raised by a widow, was a master of reading people and controlling his emotions. He was a man of immense inner strength. Su Xiang patted our shoulders. I appreciate the warning, but we're starving. The rations aren't enough, and the wild vegetables are gone. If we don't hunt, we die. Better to fight the beasts than starve. Turning to the crowd, Su Xiang declared, Su Yu and Huzi mean well. Don't be hostile. They earned their success with their lives, so stop being jealous. If you're afraid, quit now. But if you go, you're on your own. If you die, don't blame anyone else. Su Xiang understood my intent and used this moment to set the ground rules, ensuring no one would come knocking on my door if things went wrong. Su Xiang's words incited the crowd, who shouted reckless declarations about being unafraid of death. I shook my head. Hunting small game in the nearby forest was fine, but following me into the deep mountains would surely lead to casualties. Su Yu, you see? They're desperate and insisted on following me, Su Xiang claimed. While some were truly starving, most were merely hoping to strike it rich by entering the forest. I don't care about the others, but Xiaoduzi, you're coming back with me. You're too young for this. 15-year-old Xiaoduzi was the eldest of his siblings. His father was disabled, and his mother struggled to support them. Xiaoduzi was a close relative of mine, and his father was the younger brother of Qiangzi's father. Qiangzi's family had been helping them survive, but resources were scarce, and one's own family always came first. Both families were struggling. Xiaoduzi had been working in the fields for half-work points to help out. Many children in the village earned half-work points by gathering pig feed or tending livestock. Su Xiang knew the family connection. Xiaoduzi's mother often helped at my family events. Su Xiang worried that if anything happened to the boy, Qiangzi would hold him responsible. Xiaoduzi, listen to your brother Su Yu and go home, Su Xiang urged. Su Xiang and Tian Laoqi knew they would be blamed if an underage boy died on their watch. I won't go back. I'm going hunting. Cut the crap, kid, get home. I lunged forward, grabbed the boy, and tossed him to Huzi. Despite Xiaoduzi's struggles and biting, Huzi held firm. Huzi, also a relative, wanted to keep the boy safe. Smack. Huzi slapped the boy's backside and threatened to break his legs if he didn't stop biting. He then tucked the struggling boy under his arm. Xiang, I can't stop you, but stay out of the deep mountains. It's too dangerous. Su Xiang ignored the warning, signaled the group, and 30 men marched into the mountains. Only a few stayed behind, mostly those who weren't starving and saw the risk as unnecessary. In this era, men could usually earn enough work points to avoid starvation, though women were often disadvantaged by the labor-based point system. Physical labor was graded by output, and since women were often slower at heavy tasks, they earned fewer points, creating a cycle of poverty. Stay still, or I'll hit you again, Huzi warned. Watching the hunters disappear, Xiaoduzi burst into heartbreaking tears. He hadn't cried when hit, but now he seemed to have lost all hope. I asked Huzi to release him. When the boy tried to run, I caught him and demanded to know why he was so desperate to hunt. I realized the boy wasn't just hungry. He was too responsible to risk his life for mere meat. Xiaoduzi looked at me, unable to escape my grip. My sister is sick," he confessed with complex emotion. I realized the boy was planning to enter the mountains with a broken crossbow to save his sister, a suicide mission. Moved, I told Huzi to get a cart and tell Xiangzi to take his sister to the hospital. I would cover the costs. Huzi was shocked. "You didn't tell your uncle?" Xiangzi was Xiaoduzi's cousin. Xiaoduzi remained silent, staring at me, wondering if the promise was real. I guess the boy hadn't told his uncle because he'd overheard Xiangzi's mother complaining about the burden of helping them. Pride often kept the poor from asking for help. I led the boy back while Huzi went to find Xiangzi. Xiangzi's father happened to be nearby, returning for a tool, and overheard the conversation. It was a stroke of coincidence that Xiangzi had returned to drink water and fix his broken sickle. The timing was perfect. Had the sickle not broken, he would have missed the news. Huzi's blunt explanation of why the boy didn't ask for help, the friction with Xiangzi's mother, stung. It wasn't that Xiangzi's mother was evil. She was simply struggling to feed her own children and resented the constant drain on resources. It was a clash of loyalties between a husband's duty to his brother and a wife's duty to her own children. Poverty made these conflicts inevitable. Hearing that his nephew was risking his life to save his sister, Xiangzi's father wept, feeling ashamed of his own family's role in the boy's desperation. "Don't just stand there. Suyu is paying. Get your sister and let's go." "No, she's my niece. I'll pay for the medical bills," the father insisted. He entered, eyes red, devastated by the thought of what might have happened to his nephew. He felt responsible, as he had played a part in the injury that disabled Xiaoduzi's father. Huzi didn't care who paid. He left to prepare the cart. "Xiangzi, go get your cousin and bring her to the hospital," the father commanded. He didn't blame his wife, but he blamed his own incompetence for not realizing how dire things had become. If I hadn't intervened, he would have regretted this for the rest of his life. "I'm going," Xiangzi replied. Huzi had already prepared the cart, lining it with a quilt from the village head's home. Xiangzi emerged carrying the wrapped-up girl and boarded the cart. Xiaoduzi's mother and father appeared, the father apologizing for being a burden. Xiangzi choked back tears. "Uncle, don't say that. We're family. Auntie, don't follow us. I'll take Huaihua. You can trust me, right?" The family needed labor points to survive. Huaihua had already taken leave for her illness, but they couldn't afford to miss more work. "All right, I trust you. I'm leaving my girl in your hands," Xiangzi reassured his uncle, while his younger siblings, Debao and Erbao, peeked from another room, watching him carry Huaihua. The twins were thin and shy, but they watched anxiously as their sister was taken away. Huaihua was only 13 and frail. Xiangzi carried her easily onto the donkey cart and signaled Huzi to depart. As they passed Xiangzi's home, Huaihua's mother followed, wanting to see her daughter off. Xiangzi's father emerged with a bag, heading for the cart to retrieve money for the trip. "Big brother, thank you for taking care of Huaihua." She moved to kneel, but Xiangzi's father quickly stopped her. "What are you doing?" "I'm her uncle. It's my duty. Go back. I'll take care of her." "Yes, I trust you." Despite her words, she was torn. She wanted to go, but the family needed her to work to feed the remaining 3 boys. Xiangzi and Huzi looked away, uncomfortable. Xiangzi's father sighed and boarded the cart, signaling Huzi to leave the village. I waited by the roadside on my bicycle with Xiaoduzi. Seeing me, Xiangzi's father jumped off the cart, ready to bow, a gesture I, as a younger man, couldn't accept. I caught him, saying, "Uncle, don't do that. We're family." Seeing her son with me, Xiaoduzi's mother looked at Huzi in confusion. Huzi had already explained the situation to the father, despite Xiangzi's attempt to stop him. The mother felt guilty. Her inability to provide had forced her 15-year-old son to risk his life in the forest. Relying on others to save him wasn't a realistic plan. She moved to slap Xiaoduzi, but Xiangzi's father intervened, and she broke down in tears, hugging her son. Thank you, thank you." She tried to kneel, but I lifted her up. After some persuasion, she finally calmed down. I encouraged her, saying that hard times would pass if they worked diligently. My words resonated. She realized that in 3 years, her son would be grown, and she found the strength to endure. Let's go. The girl is unconscious, they urged. Huzi drove the cart to the county hospital, where the doctor diagnosed appendicitis. It was critical. She had been suffering for days and was near death. The county hospital couldn't handle such a late-stage case. Go to the city hospital, don't hesitate. I took charge, carrying Huahua onto my bicycle and speeding off. Huzi and the others followed with the cart as I rode rapidly, careful to keep the girl steady. Doctor, help. It's appendicitis. I rushed into the city hospital, abandoning my bike. Calm down, let me see. I can't. The county hospital said she's dying. The doctor snapped. Quiet. Do you want me to listen to you or examine her? I quieted down. A nurse explained they needed to process admission and payment before surgery. Realizing my outburst, I handed Huahua to the doctors and went to pay the 200 yuan deposit. I knew she would need a week of recovery and decided to cover it myself, keeping my promise to Xiaoduzi. After confirming the surgery was scheduled, the others arrived. Where is she? In surgery. Don't worry, she'll be fine. I had ensured the best care with my payment. I left the remaining costs for the uncle to handle later. My goal was simply to save her. I helped because Xiaoduzi's devotion moved me. Saving a life was a virtuous act. That's a relief. Hours later, the doctor emerged. How is she? She survived, but another hour would have been fatal. She's weak from starvation, so she's not out of the woods yet. It depends on her will to wake up. The doctor's bluntness left everyone on edge. Xiangzi's father thanked everyone, and I comforted Xiaoduzi. Xiaoduzi tried to kneel, but I pulled him up. A man's knees are worth gold. Never kneel like that again. Xiaoduzi nodded, his eyes filled with gratitude. I ignored the sentiment and went out to buy steamed buns for everyone. Xiaoduzi ate too. Xiangzi's father approached. I heard you paid the fees? He offered a handkerchief containing crumpled bills. I refused, knowing it wasn't enough anyway. Keep it for her recovery and nutrition. Pay me back when Xiaoduzi makes his fortune. The father realized I was being kind and accepted the gesture, knowing he couldn't repay the 200 yuan immediately. He decided to accept the debt of gratitude and repay it slowly over time. Xiangzi's father, though destitute, was a man of integrity. Faced with his niece's life-or-death situation, he chose to swallow his pride and accept my help rather than see her suffer. Uncle, I will definitely pay brother you back when I grow up. I'll pay him double, I promise. Xiaoduzi's declaration moved Xiangzi's father to tears, and he patted her head with a grateful, trembling hand. I stayed at the hospital until evening, waiting for Huahua to wake up after 7 or 8 hours of sleep. Huahua woke up hungry, but she couldn't eat yet due to her recent appendicitis. I signaled Xiaoduzi to follow me outside, comforted her, and stepped away from the room. What is it, brother you? It's getting late. Huzi and I are heading back. Are you staying or coming with us? Xiaoduzi decided to stay. I'll stay. Brother Xiangzi has helped all day. He should go home and rest. If Xiaoduzi didn't stay, Xiangzi would have to, as his father couldn't be left alone with the girl. Deeply sympathetic, I handed Xiaoduzi 10 yuan, along with some grain and meat coupons. Take this. When she can eat, buy her some millet porridge or whatever she craves. Xiaoduzi tried to refuse, but I shoved the money into his hand. Take it. Just don't forget your brother you once you strike it rich. Xiaoduzi nodded, tears welling up, which I wiped away. Stop crying like a baby. Get some sleep tonight, and watch out for the cold. Huzi and I informed Xiangzi and his father we were leaving. Xiangzi urged his father to go home with them. After some persuasion, the father agreed to leave, but Xiangzi stayed behind to ensure an adult was present with the children. Xiaoduzi, watch your sister. I'm seeing brother you off. Xiangzi left instructions, and the group headed out. Huzi went to fetch the donkey cart, while I checked my bicycle. The 3 men departed, with Xiangzi's father handing his remaining money to Xiangzi for emergencies before they left. They chatted idly on the way and reached the village before dark. Back home, I tried to help my wife in the kitchen but was shooed away. As they ate, Huang Sui asked, "Where were you all day? Did you go into the mountains?" I decided to be honest about the day's events. You won't be mad that I meddled and spent money, will you? Huang Sui was moved to the verge of tears by my kindness. only to be brought back to reality by my blunt question. She was deeply touched because her own brother was the type to risk his life for family. My awkward follow-up almost made her laugh. Don't be silly. I'm not cold-blooded. 200 yuan is a lot, but saving a life is a great merit. I hope this good deed protects me in the forest. I meant that I hoped the karma would keep me safe, as the forest was dangerous for everyone, even with my gun. It was, at the very least, an act of charity. I dared not tell my mother, Lu Yuji. She would be too torn between the cost and the moral value of the act to ever let it go. As they finished their meal, a commotion erupted outside. I stepped out to find Huzi, who explained that Su Xiang had returned with a wild boar, a deer, and over a dozen pheasants and rabbits. A crowd had gathered, as the villagers were starved for entertainment and gossip. Xiangzi, how are you going to split this? Someone asked. The villagers were curious. Would they sell it for cash or divide the meat? Are you selling to the supply and marketing cooperative or finding a procurement agent? Finding a procurement agent was easy enough if you knew which villages they frequented. They could simply wait for an agent to visit a nearby village and sell the haul in one go. Few dared to do what I did, selling directly in the county or city, as many still viewed such trade as low class or shameful. Most preferred the safety of the cooperative or a local agent, even if it meant earning less. The stigma against hustling wouldn't fade until the rise of the 10,000 yuan households and official encouragement made wealth respectable. I'll check if any procurement agents are coming around tomorrow, Su Xiang announced. If not, we'll go to the cooperative. It was a sensible, unimpeachable plan. Good. The crowd cheered, envious of the success Huzi and I had enjoyed, and now seeing it within their own reach. Su Xiang was hailed as a hero, and even Tian Laoqi received some praise. Huzi stood with me, watching the scene unfold just 10 meters from our home. Huzi scoffed, unimpressed by the fuss over a mere 100 pounds of game. Some of the hunters noticed me and Huzi and began making snide remarks. We should sell to the cooperative, lest someone gets jealous and reports us for speculation. Some people are just selfish. They get rich and don't bother to help the starving villagers. Thank goodness for Xiangzi. Not everyone has the guts to get rich, right, Brother Donkey? The man addressed was one of those who had chickened out earlier that day. The jab was clear. I was selfish for keeping my method secret, and the others were cowards. Xiaodong, that's enough. We're all villagers, Su Xiang interjected. Su Xiang wanted to maintain his image as a magnanimous leader without burning bridges with me. He was mature enough to avoid unnecessary conflict. But Xiaodong tried to protest, but Su Xiang silenced him with a look. Huzi wanted to retort, but I held him back. I had warned them out of concern for their safety. Since they succeeded, I saw no point in arguing. Forget it, Huzi. Let's go back. It's not worth it. The man called Brother Donkey, unable to respond, hung his head and slipped away into the crowd. Brother Donkey and his group regretted not joining Su Xiang's hunting party, realizing they had missed an easy opportunity. Su Xiang's rule was simple. The hunter keeps 30% of the catch, and the remaining 70% is split equally among everyone else. This meant even those who just helped carry the game received a share, while the main work fell to Su Xiang and Tian Laoqi, with others merely providing backup with shotguns. Su Xiang was clever at manipulating human nature. By gathering 30 people, he diluted the individual risk. As long as one ran faster than the others, survival was statistically likely. While it seems Su Xiang took a loss, he actually offloaded the logistics and risk to the group, keeping himself mobile enough to avoid direct attacks. As long as things went smoothly, he was the leader. If disaster struck, he could claim it was fate, having warned them beforehand. By the second trip, participants couldn't claim ignorance. If they were willing to risk their lives for a share of the meat, they couldn't blame Su Xiang if the prey attacked them instead. Su Xiang's public interactions were calculated to ensure everyone knew the risks, shielding himself from liability if families later tried to demand compensation for casualties. These people are ridiculous. We warned them, and now they blame us for blocking their path to wealth. Huzi grumbled. I patted Huzi's shoulder and told him to go home. The next day, Su Xiang sold the game and distributed the money. The success fueled a second, larger, and equally successful hunt. I and Huzi stayed home. After the second payout, even Brother Donkey joined the third expedition. Su Xiang welcomed everyone, bringing the total number of participants to over 50. This represented half of the village's young men. On the third day, the village party secretary informed me that the commune had approved my request to purchase chicks. I took the village head to the commune, bought 1,500 chicks, and transported them to Huangjia village. Upon arrival, the village party secretary and old man Huang greeted them, with Huang now holding a prominent position. After a speech by the commune leader, I was invited to the stage. I stated plainly that I bought the chicks to distribute for free and would arrange for the steel mill's purchasing agents to buy the village's eggs. I clarified I wanted no commission and wasn't involved in the trade. I simply wanted to help my wife's home village prosper. The villagers cheered as the 1,500 chicks were divided, giving each household about 30 birds. At Sanshuiwan, the distribution was even better, with each household receiving 30 to 40 chicks. My family kept 15 chicks, leaving the rest at the old courtyard. The old courtyard lacked space, and the brigade distributed by household, regardless of the number of sons. The brigade only handled household-level distribution. Internal family squabbles were not their concern. My eldest uncle received his share, as the brigade refused to allow special treatment. Each batch of 30 chicks included 5 or 6 roosters, even after initial sorting. Sorting chicks by sex is difficult and requires experience, so the roosters were distributed equally. Roosters were mostly for meat, as keeping more than 1 or 2 led to fighting. Since it was impossible to get only hens, the villagers had to accept a balanced mix. At Sanshuiwan, I gave a similar speech after the commune officials. I expressed my desire to help my fellow villagers, stating that I wouldn't forget them now that I was doing well. The villagers applauded, grateful for the benefit and respectful of the officials present. I promised to coordinate with purchasing agents once egg production increased. With over 60 households, each averaging 20 hens, the daily yield would be over 1,000 eggs, making it worth the agent's time. While daily production per hen was unlikely due to poor feed, even an egg every 2 days would result in a massive monthly surplus. The sheer volume of eggs would be significant. It was a profitable arrangement that no purchasing agent would refuse. In Huangjia village, I emphasized my connection through my wife. In Sanshuiwan, I framed it as a desire to lead the whole village to prosperity, hoping they would support my success so I could provide more opportunities. This framing effectively neutralized any jealousy regarding my new house or future wealth. I had already earned goodwill through the wild boar incident and the blue sheep project I entrusted to Su Xiaodong. Providing chicks out of my own pocket cemented my sincerity. I encouraged them to grow their flocks, hoping the cycle of breeding would lift them out of poverty. I suggested distributing the surplus chicks to the village's widows and orphans. The villagers agreed, and families like Ziaduzi's received extra chicks. With distribution complete, the responsibility for raising them fell to the villagers. I secured my own chicks in a fenced coop near the dog kennel, protected by Heisey. The gerfalcons occasionally watched the chicks, but I kept them in check. Amidst the celebration, a terrifying piece of news arrived by evening. Su Xiang's group of 50 had not returned from the forest, which was impossible for such a large group to manage overnight. Panic spread as the villagers gathered, fearing the worst. Earlier that day, the village had been jubilant over the chicks, which represented future school fees and daily necessities. With tuition at 2 to 3 yuan and eggs selling for 5 to 8 cents, the chicks were a vital asset. A few hens could cover school fees and basic supplies like salt and soy sauce. Even the roosters and older hens held significant monetary value. A 3-year-old hen could sell for up to 2 yuan. Regardless of the specifics, the chicks were a guaranteed source of income. The mood shifted from joy to dread as the hunters failed to return. Brother you, open the door. I had heard the news but stayed home with my wife, intending to stay out of it. Huzi's increasingly frantic knocking forced me to the door. I opened the door to find a massive, anxious crowd led by the village party secretary. Old party secretary, why such a grand mobilization? I asked, feigning ignorance of their intent. Su Yu, Su Xiang and the others went hunting in the mountains and haven't returned. Do you know anything about it? I naturally denied knowing anything. They haven't returned? Perhaps they found a shelter to wait out the night. I played dumb, though my logic was sound. Hunters often build temporary cabins or find shelter to avoid the elements and predators. I myself didn't need such shelters due to my immense strength, but I understood the practice. If they just found shelter, that would be fine. I'm afraid something has gone wrong. The villagers are worried. I've already spoken to Huzi, and he mentioned you were in the mountains last night helping the Huangjia village folks. Since you have experience, I've brought everyone to ask for your help. I glared at Huzi for his loose lips, though I couldn't truly blame him. In this era, the village operated as a collective unit. If one family suffered, the entire village, or even a city neighborhood, would mobilize to help. The spirit of when one faces trouble, all provide support was absolute, even among strangers. The social cohesion and collective sense of duty were incredibly strong. Huzi's actions were simply a product of this ingrained cultural mindset. You want me to help? I hesitated, but refusing would alienate half the village. In this era of high collective honor, being uncooperative would mark me as an outcast. I had to play along with their enthusiasm. Old party secretary, it's not that I won't help, but the back mountain is vast. I don't know where they went. My previous success in Huangjia village was just luck and the result of their entire village's effort. I had to manage expectations. I wasn't omnipotent, but I had to participate to avoid offending the village. You know the mountains better than anyone. You must help. If the young men didn't return, the village party secretary would be held responsible. That was why the old man was so desperate despite the late hour. Fine. Have the village head assemble the patrol team to accompany me. The other men can temporarily fill in for them. The militia would head out, while other villagers would cover the patrol duties. Agreed. I'll gather the men immediately. Huzi volunteered to go, and I intended to bring him anyway. Soon, Qin Xiangyang arrived with 26 men, including Huzi's father, split into 2 squads. The militia was small because the village needed to maintain its labor force. Captain Qin, Uncle D, hi, I'm going to grab my gear. Let's move. I went inside, where Huang Sui quickly brought me warm clothes, a hat, and gloves. It's cold at night. Keep warm, she urged. The temperature drop in the mountains was significant, especially at higher altitudes. I know. You go sleep at the old courtyard tonight. Lock the house. Don't worry about me. I wanted her safe and accompanied at the old courtyard. After locking up, I left, and Huang Sui headed to the old courtyard. Soon, Su Xiang arrived, having been sent away so the women could sleep together. I heard you're going into the mountains. Let me come with you, Su Xiang offered. I can't. I'm taking all the militia. You'll be drafted by the party secretary for patrol duty. It was a civic duty I couldn't refuse, though they might let me rest for the second half of the night. As expected, the party secretary gathered the men. Huzi, having been in the forest, was allowed to join the search party with his rifle. Brother Yu, I'm ready. When do we leave? Huzi was excited. He had been itching to go hunting. Haizi, come here. I patted the dog and told Captain Qin. To find them, I need their personal items for the dog to track their scent. No problem. Someone go to Su Xiang's house and get his belongings, and the others too. Wait, what kind of items? I sighed. Socks. They have the strongest scent. The socks were pungent enough to nearly knock me out when they arrived. Cough. Put them away. We'll deal with them in the forest. I had trained Haizi in tracking skills, which were similar to hunting. I could also track by scent, but the sheer stench of the socks was overwhelming. Let's go. Captain Qin led the group into the forest. I noted the professional, energy-efficient gait of Qin and Huzi's father. Qin was a recent veteran, but Huzi's father had been out for a long time, yet his instincts remained sharp. Military training, it seemed, was something one never truly forgot. Captain Qin, how long have you been out of the service? They moved quietly, calling out periodically to save their voices. They relied on lights and occasional shouts to signal their presence. Me? I don't really remember. Qin replied vaguely. He clearly didn't want to talk about it. A veteran never forgets their service dates. His deflection was intentional. I decided not to pry into the man's past. All right, saving lives is the priority. Li Xiaoping, bring out the socks and let's see which way they went. Li Xiaoping was a young, enthusiastic militia recruit. He was chosen for his physical fitness and marksmanship. Yes, Captain. Li Xiaoping pulled out the socks, gagging at the smell. I used a stick to hold them for Haizi. I kept my 6 senses closed. I wasn't about to subject myself to that odor. The smell was unbearable, though perhaps Haizi found it pleasant. For a human with heightened senses, It was torture. I patted the dog, relying on Heisey. I wouldn't subject myself to such a stench, and since Heisey's sense of smell was superior anyway, I left the tracking to the dog. Go on then. I signaled the dog to begin. Heisey sniffed around, darting left and right before suddenly bolting forward. Follow him. Qin Xiangyang watched my professional hand signals with surprise. Having a military background, he recognized the expertise in the dog's training. He wondered if I was a disguised veteran. Suyu, where did you learn to train military dogs? I realized I couldn't hide it. I hadn't bothered to conceal my methods, as it wasn't a state secret. I read some books and consulted a trainer. I lied smoothly. Tracking wasn't a restricted skill, so the excuse held up well enough. Captain, keep up. The team called out, forcing Qin to shelf his curiosity. Coming. The two men sprinted ahead, quickly leaving the rest of the militia behind. Even the deputy captain couldn't keep pace with their speed. Huzi only managed to keep up because of his familiarity with the forest paths. Heisey barked ahead as the two men chased. Qin and I moved with impressive agility, leaping over obstacles in the dark. Qin intentionally accelerated to test me, but I matched him effortlessly, clearly holding back. Qin was impressed by my endurance and agility. He realized I was no ordinary villager. I kept my performance measured, avoiding anything too supernatural. I matched Qin's pace, assuming the veteran's skills had simply dulled over the years. I didn't realize Qin had served in an elite, frontline special unit. Qin had retired 7 years ago, choosing to farm instead of taking a government job. He had sought a quiet life, rejecting other opportunities. Qin knew his own strength. Even active-duty soldiers struggled to keep up with him. My ease was shocking. Despite nearing 40, Qin remained formidable, capable of handling several men at once. Captain, look. Lights ahead. My voice snapped Qin out of his thoughts. They saw the lights and realized they had found the group. As they approached, they saw the hunters carrying stretchers. Who's there? The hunters spotted their flashlights. It's me, Qin Xiangyang. The group relaxed. I had already seen the carnage with my enhanced vision, but kept quiet to avoid suspicion. Captain Qin, we're saved. The scene was chaotic and noisy. Let's go, Suyu. They arrived to see a grim sight. A long chain of stretchers, with the men exhausted from carrying their wounded comrades. What happened? Wild boars. We lost Lao Ba, Li Wuxia, and Su Kan. I counted 3 dead and several critically injured. The scene was horrific. Seeing Su Xiang but not Tian Laoqi, I signaled Heisey to fetch Huzi. Huzi understood Heisey's signals perfectly. With Huzi's help, the rest of the militia would arrive soon. Captain, you're finally here, cried Brother Donkey, who had a broken leg. He was battered and his clothes were in tatters. Most of the group had been trampled by the stampeding boars. Heisey returned with the main force, and the survivors broke down in tears. Only Su Xiang remained stoic, carrying a 200-pound boar while supporting an injured man. Su Xiang was truly ruthless to prioritize the kill even now. Others also carried game like pheasants and rabbits. They hadn't abandoned their haul, proving they still had the strength to carry both the game and the wounded. Huzi's father arrived and looked at Qin. What now? Get them back. Send someone to the village for carts. We need every vehicle we can get. I'll go. Huzi volunteered, knowing the route well. Qin agreed, and Huzi took off. Huzi was happy to escape the grueling task of carrying the wounded. No one else argued. The atmosphere was heavy with the news of the dead. Move out. Let's get them down the mountain. I stepped forward. Give me the game. I'm strong enough to carry it so you can focus on the stretchers. Neither I nor Su Xiang criticized those who held on to their kills. It was understandable to want the reward for their labor. Those who survived were either quick to climb trees or smart enough to lie flat during the stampede. Lying flat was the only way to minimize damage from the charging herd. The boars wouldn't stop to attack, but the trampling was lethal for those who tried to run. Those who panicked and ran suffered the worst injuries. Brother Xiang, give it to me. Su Xiang handed over the boar, whispering, Thanks. I was too reckless. I didn't judge. They had all taken risks. Su Xiang had simply been unlucky with the numbers. I smiled bitterly, shouldering the 200-pound boar with one hand as if it weighed nothing. I carried 300 or 400 pounds of game with ease. Qin Xiangyang observed this, unsurprised, knowing I possessed extraordinary strength. The group hurried back. 1/3 of the men were uninjured, while another third suffered minor trampling or scratches that didn't impede their movement. The remaining men were in critical condition. Huzi informed the village party secretary, who nearly collapsed upon hearing the news. He immediately ordered the mobilization of donkey and ox carts from neighboring villages. Borrowing vehicles required official documentation from the brigade, or having the neighboring villagers drive them over directly. With time critical, the old party secretary bypassed formal paperwork, relying on verbal explanations and urgent requests for manpower. Huzi, having just returned, was immediately sent back out to borrow carts because he was the fastest cyclist. Huang Sui was summoned to open the gate so their family bicycle could be requisitioned. Shen Guer's bicycle was also taken, though he volunteered to help coordinate the cart borrowing himself. The secretary barked orders: go to Sanshuiwan Village, Mauser, Hugazai, and Huangjia Village. Move fast. 3 cyclists, using the brigades, Mai, and Shen Guer's bikes, set off. The Su family effectively provided the entire transport fleet. Another man ran to nearby Mauser. Despite the friction between Ma Sanyuan and Su Daqiang, this was a life-or-death matter within the same commune. Ma wouldn't dare refuse. Ma Sanyuan knew that if he refused, Su Daqiang would report him to the commune. He decided to provide the carts while using the opportunity to mock his rival. Soon, Ma Sanyuan arrived with an ox cart, taunting, "Old Su, heard your hunting trip turned into a death trap." Su Daqiang was furious at the accusation of leading the hunt, but he couldn't retaliate since Ma had technically come to help. "Ma, shut up," Su Daqiang snapped. "If you're here to help, do it. If you're here to mock, leave. Lives are at stake." Ma Sanyuan grumbled, but complied, knowing he couldn't afford the consequences of interfering with emergency rescue efforts. "You lot, go to the mountain perimeter and assist the others," Ma ordered. 20 militiamen followed his lead into the mountains, maintaining the facade of inter-village solidarity. Ma felt compelled to act, even if insincerely, to avoid criticism from the commune. Su Daqiang ignored him, showing no gratitude for the forced assistance. The scene was chaotic. Huzi's blunt announcement of the deaths had caused 3 family members to faint and others to wail in grief. The secretary regretted not having Huzi report privately, so he could have prepared the families. Because Huzi had blurted out everything, including the status of those still clinging to life, the secretary had to assign men to prevent distraught families from rushing into the mountains. Village women arrived to console the grieving. Most families had many children, unlike my third uncle, who was an anomaly. Without contraception, couples naturally had many children. For a man in his 30s, abstinence was rarely an option. While not every family was ruined, the sudden loss of a life was devastating to the parents. Contrary to rumors, the third uncle wasn't abstinent. He was simply pragmatic enough to seek contraceptives from the county health department. "Secretary, they're back," someone shouted. Heart-wrenching cries of "my son" erupted as the survivors arrived. Amidst the wailing, the secretary ordered the wounded to be loaded onto carts and called for me. I, still carrying the game, dropped my load at my door and approached. "You called, secretary?" "Obviously," the secretary replied. "Take your bike and Uncle Lee to the hospital. If the county hospital can't handle it, go to the city hospital. Save them at all costs." Uncle Lee, Liubo, was the brigade's accountant, a man who held the village's purse strings. The secretary urged Lee to use the brigade's funds for the rescue, emphasizing that saving lives was the priority. Lee was an elderly, thin man, but he was educated and highly respected. "Understood. Don't worry," Lee replied. The secretary instructed them to assess the patients and prepare for an immediate transfer to the city if necessary. As they were leaving, the secretary pulled me aside. "You think I've treated you well, right?" I was caught off guard by the sudden shift in tone. "Of course, Uncle Daqiang. You've always helped me when you could." I felt this was a fair assessment. The secretary was competent and hadn't abused his power for personal gain. A worse official could have made my life miserable, but Daqiang had remained reasonable. He hadn't resorted to petty, underhanded tactics. My praise, while slightly exaggerated, was grounded in truth. "Enough with the flattery," the secretary said. "This is a disaster. I might lose my position. The collective fund only has about 100 yuan. It won't be enough." I realized the secretary was fishing for financial support. "Don't worry, uncle. I've got it covered. I didn't make a formal promise, but left with Li Yobua. I planned to reach the hospital early to coordinate treatment and ensure the most critical cases were prioritized for the city. Li Yukai had also been dragged out of bed to use his acupuncture skills to stabilize the most severely injured. The secretary knew that despite Li's eccentricities, his medical skills were on par with professional doctors. Li was thus conscripted to accompany them. Li complained loudly, but his actions proved he cared deeply about the villagers. I pedaled furiously, the rough ride nearly making the elderly Li sick. Li begged me to slow down, but I insisted. Uncle, saving lives is like fighting a fire. Please hold on. Li understood the urgency but struggled with the physical toll of the speed. 20 minutes later, they reached the county hospital, and I rushed straight into the emergency department director's office. I had already arranged everything before the main group arrived. Li Yobua had deposited the 100 yuan advance, and the hospital was fully prepared. With over 20 casualties, a third of Sanshuiwan's 60 households, the situation was dire. Hurry, prioritize the critical cases. The hospital had cleared staff and recalled off-duty doctors within 15 minutes. My swift transport was the only reason for this efficiency. Treat the abdominal wound first. As the medical team mobilized, the patients' families began to arrive. Who's in charge here? A doctor shouted, overwhelmed by the 23 immobile patients and 20 others with minor abrasions. Li Yobua stepped forward, representing the village. The doctor demanded more funds, noting the deposit was insufficient. In this era, people rarely sought medical help for minor ailments, relying on ginger tea and sweat to recover. Despite poor nutrition, the people of this era possessed robust immune systems and high antibody levels. That was all the village's money, Li Yobua pleaded. Please save them first. I'll find a way. Recognizing he represented the village, the doctor accepted that the collective would eventually pay. A village could usually scrape together 100 yuan through hunting or collective sales. However, with inflammation risks, the cost for 20-plus patients would far exceed the initial deposit. Director, these 5 are too critical for us. We've stabilized them with adrenaline. They need the city hospital. Agreed. Arrange the transfer immediately. The county hospital notified the city hospital, and the patients were loaded onto carts for transport, accompanied by doctors. Li Yobua faced a crisis. The doctor insisted on full payment, or treatment would stop. He turned to the families, but most were destitute, the very reason they had risked the mountain in the first place. The scene was filled with uncontrollable weeping. Families knelt before Li Yobua and the doctors, begging for mercy. Li explained that the village collective funds were exhausted. Selling the village donkey would alienate the 2/3 of the village not involved in the accident. It's collective property, not mine. I've done all I can. The emergency director, once sympathetic, had become hardened by daily tragedies and the impossibility of covering costs for everyone. He had learned to separate his work from his emotions to survive the relentless cycle of poverty-stricken patients. Li Yobua realized why the village party secretary had sent him instead of coming himself. The secretary had anticipated this trap. The secretary wanted to avoid the burden of managing the financial shortfall. The secretary will be here soon, Li promised. He might be able to petition the commune for funds. A loan from the commune could be repaid by the villagers over time. The crowd latched onto this hope. As everyone looked for the secretary, I stayed hidden. I knew that appearing too early would make me a target for exploitation. Hospitals were required to provide humanitarian aid for 24 hours, often subsidized by the state if families couldn't pay. Sometimes, if the debt couldn't be recovered, the state absorbed the cost. But after 24 hours, treatment would cease unless payment was secured. The secretary is here. The village party secretary arrived by bicycle and was immediately swarmed. I retreated into the restroom to avoid the spotlight. I know you're desperate, the secretary told the crowd. But I have no grounds to ask the commune for money. Since this was a private hunting trip, the village held no official responsibility. He glared at Li Yobua, who feigned ignorance, realizing he'd been set up to take the blame for the bad idea. The secretary knew that petitioning the commune would expose his own incompetence as a leader. It would signal that he couldn't control his village, risking his position. He refused to sacrifice his career for a loan. Don't panic, he said. We have other ways. He avoided naming me directly to maintain his standing among their shared clan. Betraying a clansman would ruin his reputation and future support. He hinted for me to step forward, only to realize I was missing. I'll find a way, he promised, stalling. I need to head to the city to check on the others. Where is I? Someone asked. The crowd suddenly remembered my wealth. I emerged from the restroom, timing my entrance perfectly. The crowd rushed toward me, leaving the medical staff confused by the sudden fervor. I feigned reluctance, claiming I had spent all my money on chicks, but the crowd continued to beg. The secretary watched silently, pleased that the villagers had realized the solution on their own. I rolled my eyes at the secretary, realizing I had been manipulated into playing the hero. I didn't mind helping, but I wanted to ensure my generosity would be properly recognized. I refused to be a good Samaritan for ungrateful people. The secretary, meanwhile, was satisfied. He had protected his position while ensuring the village would be saved. I needed to secure my position as village party secretary without making enemies, yet I couldn't afford to alienate the villagers. I decided to leverage my reputation as a man of means to gain their favor. Knowing Su Yu's true intentions, the village party secretary saw an opportunity to curry favor without real cost, happily playing along. I'm out of cash, I announced to the crowd, but I have friends in the county town. If I ask, they'll help. Do you really want to borrow? The villagers clamored for the loans. I headed straight for the office phone. Several villagers followed me to the office, eager to eavesdrop. I didn't mind. I was actually making the call. Hello, I'm looking for Zhang Yuegua. Tell him his friend is calling. I'll ring back in 5 minutes. I called the sub-district office, knowing they would relay the message to Zhang Yuegua. The night shift worker at the office answered, and 5 minutes later, I was connected to Zhang Yuegua. Brother Zhang, it's Su Yu. I'm at the county hospital. Our villagers are in a bind. Could you bring some money? I'll pay you back soon. Given their history and the funds I had previously provided him, Zhang Yuegua was more than willing to help. The villagers listened in awe as I secured the funds with a single call. They couldn't help but admire my capability. The money is coming, I told the crowd. It's a loan, but it should cover the emergency. Zhang Yuegua arrived shortly after. Seeing the casualties, he realized the village had been hunting together, which explained the source of my previous game. The wild boar attack had been a disaster, but the mystery of the village's hunting was solved. I brought 2,000, Zhang said. Is that enough? 500 is plenty, I replied. I took the money, sent Zhang away, and paid the hospital fees after an estimate. The village party secretary then had me take him to the city hospital to handle the remaining injured, following the old village chief's lead. The villagers begged for help, and I paid another 300 yuan under the secretary's witness. That's not enough for 5 critical patients, the staff noted. You need 200 more. I paid the extra, bringing my total expenditure to 1,200 yuan, a steep price, but a necessary protection fee. The villagers were profuse in their gratitude, some even trying to kowtow, which I stopped. I was glad they were at least grateful. Had it been my eldest uncle's family, I would have let them suffer. Remember, this is a loan, the village party secretary reminded them. You owe this money. He had said the same thing at the county hospital. The secretary knew the money was borrowed, but he didn't believe for a second that I was truly broke. It was a performance. I gained gratitude and the image of being broke, while ensuring the debt was tied to me, not the village. The hospital matter settled, I visited the next day to solidify my standing with a third of the village's families. I then repaid Zhang Yuegua, insisting he take the money back despite Zhang's reluctance. Returning home, I found the village in an uproar and met my wife, Huang Sui, coming back from the center. She had been out gathering gossip, a universal pastime. What's happening? I asked. The reckoning, she replied. Yesterday they were too busy saving lives, but today, the blame game has started. The village party secretary had managed to suppress the anger the night before, but the tension remained. I told my wife about the 1,200 yuan I had spent. Huang Sui trusted my judgment. She handled the home, I handled the outside world. I explained that my actions were a strategic investment for the future, not just charity. Huang Sui understood enough to trust my plan. So they're going after Su Xiang? The villagers were jealous of me, but my timely help made it impossible to attack me. My recent gift of chicks and my financial aid proved I was looking out for the village. Even the families of the deceased couldn't blame me after I covered the medical costs. Thus, The anger shifted to the organizers, Su Xiang and Tian Laoqi. The young men trusted Su Xiang, but they only joined the hunt because of the veteran hunter, Tian Laoqi. Su Xiang had been prepared, having everyone sign a waiver stating they accepted the risks of the hunt. Su Xiang had cleverly omitted Tian Laoqi's name from the waiver, leaving the veteran hunter as the sole target for the villagers' rage. The villagers stormed Tian Laoqi's home, smashing everything in sight. Su Xiang is safe because of the signed papers, I noted. But Tian Laoqi is finished, his home is destroyed. Tian Laoqi had fled the village before the hunt even ended, sensing trouble. Su Xiang is a cunning fox, I remarked. He planned this perfectly, leaving Tian Laoqi to take the fall. It was a brilliant move to divert hatred. If Su Xiang had included Tian Laoqi on the waiver, he would have faced the villagers' long-term resentment himself. By leaving him out, the villagers attacked Tian Laoqi, and their conflict ensured no one remembered to blame Su Xiang. People would even defend Su Xiang. At least he was upfront with the waiver, while Tian Laoqi led us into danger and then ran away. Su Xiang emerged as the reasonable one, while Tian Laoqi became the scapegoat. Su Xiang even donated the proceeds from the wild boar to the victims' families, appearing magnanimous while further isolating Tian Laoqi. I admired the strategy. Su Xiang had secured his own safety while ensuring Tian Laoqi bore the full brunt of the tragedy. Su Xiang would walk away clean, as the villagers knew they had only joined the hunt because of Tian Laoqi's reputation. Without the veteran hunter, Su Xiang would never have been able to convince anyone to join such a dangerous expedition. Tian Laoqi was the perfect scapegoat. Su Xiang had skillfully and timely shifted the villagers' collective rage onto him. The crowd's fury was evident. Tian's home had been trashed, and only the village head's intervention saved it from being torn down. That man is too cunning to mess with, I thought, deciding to avoid the drama and head home immediately. I hurried my wife home, terrified that Su Xiang might redirect the mob's anger toward me next. Su Xiang understood my calculated generosity, the chicks, the loans, the medical aid, but saw no benefit in exposing me. He was secretly unsettled by how far ahead I planned. That night, Tian Laoqi returned to sneak away, only to find his home destroyed. His house was trashed, smeared with filth, and his front door defiled with excrement. Learning from a bachelor friend that Su Xiang had framed him, Tian realized he was outmatched. At 60, he couldn't win a physical confrontation against the younger Su Xiang. Consumed by rage and knowing he couldn't stay in the village, he decided to go out with a bang. He coerced a fellow bachelor, Li Xiaoping, who had plenty of dirty secrets, including peeping at the widow. Tian threatened to expose Li's past crimes unless he helped. Unlike the unattached Tian, Li had a family to protect. They reached a grim consensus. Seven Fingers, are we really doing this? We could be killed for this. Li asked. Stop whining and do as I say, Tian snapped, dismissing him. As Li fled, Tian glared at the homes of the bereaved and Su Xiang, his eyes filled with malice. Tian ignited a pile of firewood and quickly retreated. He had used Li to help haul straw from the threshing floor to speed up the process, needing 2 people to avoid the militia patrol. They surrounded several homes, including Su Xiang's, with wheat straw, keeping it hidden from the patrols. Once the patrol passed, Tian doused the straw in cooking oil and set it ablaze. The fire erupted, and within 3 minutes, the entire village saw the flames. The victims couldn't escape because Tian had locked their doors from the outside. Kick the doors down, someone shouted. Qin Xiangyang led the charge, kicking in a door while the militia sounded the alarm. The village erupted into chaos as people rushed to fight the fire. I ran toward the scene and collided with a man fleeing in a panic. It was Li Xiaoping. I, sensing something wrong, bluffed. I know you started the fire. Come with me to the village head. I easily subdued the smaller Li, dragging him by the collar. It wasn't me. Let me go, Li screamed. You're fleeing while others are saving lives. That's the behavior of a guilty man, I retorted. Li had stayed behind out of morbid curiosity, wondering if Tian was truly capable of murder. Seeing the locked doors, Li realized Tian was serious and panicked, fearing he would be silenced as a witness. In reality, Tian hadn't planned to kill Li, but Li didn't know that. Tian, at 60, felt he had nothing to lose. whether he escaped or faced the firing squad. Terrified by me, Li immediately confessed and sold out Tian. I brought Li to the village head and reported the confession. Qin Xiangyang broke into the second house, saving the occupants. Su Xiang's family had already escaped, though they had underestimated Tian's cruelty. I joined the rescue, using my strength and speed to pull people from the burning buildings. The fire is out, but the houses are badly damaged, I reported to the village head. We're lucky they were still awake from the wake, or this would have been a tragedy. Wakes usually ended late, which inadvertently saved them. It wasn't like the movies. People didn't stay up all night, but they were awake enough to react. Take them to the threshing floor. Tie up Li Xiaoping and make him talk, the village head ordered. The entire village gathered at the threshing floor. The militia bound Li to a post, ignoring his family's pleas. Li confessed, claiming Tian threatened to expose his gambling debts. Everyone knew it was a lie. It was likely something far more shameful, but they didn't care. They accepted that he was coerced, as Li had no motive to commit murder himself. What now? The village party secretary asked. Justice must be served, the village head replied. Li's older brother knelt and begged. Please, he was coerced. Give him a chance. The brother, 50, felt responsible for Li, having promised their dying mother he would look after him. He kowtowed until his forehead bled, desperate to save his brother from prison. The sight of the older man begging moved the villagers to pity. I stepped in. He was clearly terrified and didn't know Tian intended to kill. He was just a pawn. How about this? Li and his brother pay for and repair the damaged homes. That should suffice as restitution. What do you all think? Given my recent heroics and generosity, the villagers, even the victims, were inclined to agree with me. The victims' families agreed to let the brigade handle the punishment internally, whether through street sweeping or manual labor. Since the Li family would cover the repairs, the villagers felt satisfied. Given Li Xiaoping wasn't the mastermind, they accepted the compromise to avoid appearing heartless. I intervened to avoid alienating the Li clan. Since I had captured Li Xiaoping, sending him to prison would inevitably create resentment among Li's kin. Furthermore, Li Xiaoping's brother was an honest man. Seeing him kowtow in desperation made me feel that pushing for imprisonment was unnecessarily aggressive. By showing mercy, I gained the brother's gratitude, effectively neutralizing any potential hostility from the Li clan. It was a strategic move. Buying the brother's favor was a sound investment. The village head finalized the decision, tasking Li Dalong with overseeing the repairs and promising village support if needed. Li Dalong was simply the common way of addressing Li Xiaoping's older brother. This wasn't just about the brother's character. The village needed the houses fixed promptly, and Li Dalong was the only one capable of ensuring the work got done. Li Dalong thanked the village head, the party secretary, and me, promising to complete the repairs. His humble demeanor contrasted sharply with his brother's, leaving the villagers feeling slightly awkward for their earlier anger. The party secretary warned Li Xiaoping that he would be held accountable for any laziness during the repairs. Since the party secretary was the same age as Li Dalong, calling Li Xiaoping old boy was socially acceptable. Li Xiaoping, cowed by the public shaming, quickly agreed to work hard. The ordeal of being tied to a post had effectively broken his spirit. The village head ordered him released and told Li Dalong to take him home for a stern lecture. He then dismissed the crowd, ordering the militia to patrol for Tian Laoqi and contact the police station the next day. Qin Xiangyang, the young militia captain, stepped up to lead the night patrols. It was natural for the young, capable captain to take the lead rather than the older men. As I headed home, Li Dalong caught up to thank me for saving his brother from prison. I replied modestly, telling him not to worry about it. I maintained a respectful tone, avoiding the derogatory Li Xiaoping in front of the brother. Li Dalong insisted that I had done the right thing and promised to discipline his brother if he ever tried to retaliate. Though he often beat his brother, it was always with familial restraint. I brushed it off and headed home to rest. I realized that even by trying to remain a transparent observer, I couldn't avoid the jealousy and attention my success brought. If I remained completely isolated, I would only become an outsider to the village. My decision to build a new house already proved I couldn't truly stay low profile. Huang Sui asked about the commotion outside. I had kept her inside for safety. She hadn't witnessed the events. I explained that Tian Laoqi had tried to burn down several houses in retaliation, but Qin Xiangyang had stopped it. Without gasoline or diesel, the arson attempt had been amateurish. Using only straw and cooking oil, it was difficult to start a major fire. I told her to ask others for details tomorrow and went to sleep. The next day, the militia searched the area but found no sign of Tian Laoqi. Public security arrived to investigate the arson and interview the neighbors. They were thorough, suspecting that Tian Laoqi, at over 60, had resorted to arson because he knew he couldn't win a direct confrontation. It was a desperate, scorched-earth tactic. Su Xiang was questioned regarding the hunting incident and the injuries sustained, despite the signed agreements. I was also questioned, as the hunting expedition had been my idea. However, I had nothing to hide. My income from the steel mill procurement was legitimate and more than enough to cover my house. The police left after a brief, routine interview. They recognized that I had acted responsibly by providing medical funds and warning others about the forest. They were primarily interested in whether the boar attack had been natural or provoked. They had to consider if I might have manipulated the situation to keep others out of the forest. Over the next few days, I joined the villagers for the autumn harvest. I figured that once the harvest ended, the animal breeding season would be over, allowing them to return to the forest. 10 days passed. Police and militia searched the outskirts but avoided the deep mountains. They knew the dangers of the deep forest and the wild boar packs. They found no trace of Tian Laoqi, though they caught a few pheasants and rabbits. The police eventually left to continue the search in neighboring communes, treating Tian Laoqi as an armed fugitive. His homemade shotgun, while limited, remained a lethal threat. Tian Laoqi's gambling addiction was the reason he never invested in a better weapon. Huzi approached me, asking if they would return to the forest now that the harvest was done. They had stayed away for 10 days due to the uncertainty surrounding Tian Laoqi. I agreed. It was time to resume our activities. The next morning, Huzi arrived early while Huang Sui was at the threshing floor. Just as I finished breakfast, Su Xiang arrived at my door. I had been absent from public view for over 10 days, missing the entire autumn harvest, following questioning by the public security at the police station. "Brother Xiang, what brings you here?" I was surprised to see Su Xiang approaching with long strides, carrying a matchlock musket and a homemade shotgun. The matchlock had a thinner barrel and longer range than the shotgun, but lacked power, capable only of downing small game like pheasants or rabbits. It fired lead shot rather than iron sand. While accurate, its overall lethality was mediocre. "What? Not happy to see me?" I frowned, worried Su Xiang intended to join our hunt. Su Xiang was a deep, calculating man. His presence would hinder my ability to maximize my haul. If I brought back hundreds of pounds of game as I did with Huzi, Su Xiang would surely grow suspicious or jealous, which was a dangerous liability. "Not at all. Just curious if you're heading into the forest." Su Xiang laughed. "I saw Huzi with his gear and figured you were going hunting. Since the recent incident in the village, I've struggled to find partners. As a novice, I'm unfamiliar with the woods. Could you take me for a few days? You keep your own kills. I'll give you half of mine." Offering half as an apprenticeship fee was generous, but I still wanted to refuse to avoid being slowed down. With Su Xiang present, I couldn't hunt freely or visit the best spots, fearing both interference and potential sabotage. However, Su Xiang was a fellow villager and a clansman. Having recently publicly advocated for everyone's prosperity, I couldn't refuse without risking gossip and social backlash. Since the offer followed the etiquette of a master-apprentice relationship, rejecting it would seem arrogant. It was only for a few days, after all. Huzi frowned, sensing my reluctance through our long-standing rapport. Like me, Huzi realized that refusing a fellow villager would invite accusations of elitism. "Fine, Brother Xiang. I'll act as your guide for today. I meant this as a one-time favor. I knew you wouldn't be so heartless, little you. We're bound to have a good harvest today." I smiled non-committally and finished my simple breakfast of steamed buns and meat sauce. In the village, high-salt preservation was the only way to keep pickles and vegetables from spoiling in the summer heat. I, being a hunter, made my own meat sauce by frying minced meat with bean paste, which made my simple buns much more palatable. "I'm ready. Let's go." I grabbed my rifle, and the 3 men departed. Since I had to accept, I decided to play along to maintain my reputation. As they reached the foot of the mountain, they spotted several suspicious figures near Manhwa. My heightened senses and awakened spiritual power gave me an instinctive, sixth sense-like warning of danger. It was a primal reaction, similar to a rabbit sensing a tiger, a physical feedback loop I didn't fully understand but couldn't ignore. While human understanding of the universe is limited, these biological instincts are rarely wrong. I paused, staring toward Manhwa. Brother Yu, what's wrong? Huzi and Su Xiang looked in the direction I was watching, but they saw nothing. It's nothing. I felt like we were being watched. Probably just my imagination. I dismissed the feeling, unaware that my spiritual growth had made me significantly more vigilant. They entered the forest, though I remained cautious about hunting openly with an outsider present. It's a pheasant. Your turn, Brother Xiang. Within 30 minutes, they had already bagged several small animals. This was largely due to Haizi, whose tracking skills remained consistent regardless of my involvement. Su Xiang noted Haizi's intelligence and keen nose, realizing why I and Huzi were always so successful. Don't mind if I do. Su Xiang raised his matchlock. Just as he aimed, Haizi barked frantically and lunged at him. Su Xiang instinctively pointed his gun at the dog, but I and Huzi shouted, "Don't shoot." Huzi, having a bond with the dog, would have intervened regardless of the reason. Su Xiang hesitated, then kicked out at the dog instead of firing. Haizi, now a sturdy, well-fed adult dog, leaped high. The kick sent Haizi flying, but the dog's weight caused Su Xiang to stumble. The momentum of the jump and the kick left Su Xiang off balance. Before Haizi landed, a gunshot rang out. Bang! Get down. I had sensed something was wrong. Haizi wouldn't attack without cause. Because I hadn't fully engaged my six senses, I had been caught off guard, but Haizi had detected the threat. I tackled Huzi to the ground, rolling for cover. I, Huzi, and Haizi all dove, but Su Xiang, distracted by the dog, failed to hit the dirt in time and took the brunt of the blast. Had Haizi not knocked him back, Su Xiang would likely have been killed instantly. I, Huzi, and Haizi were hit by stray iron sand pellets. We suffered multiple shallow wounds across our backs and legs. I ignored my pain, grabbed Huzi, and dragged him behind a large tree. Haizi limped over, while Su Xiang lay nearby, riddled with pellets. Because he was hit from the side, the pellets missed his vital organs, though his limbs and neck were severely peppered. Brother Yu, was that a shotgun?